and gentlemen, let's go. Let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all-natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, a Tuesday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. A lot of stuff to get into and talk about today. We will talk with Adam Teicher coming up at 11 o'clock. He is our Chiefs insider from ESPN. We'll talk with him about the Chiefs' loss to the Packers, what's going on with this team. Is there room for improvement? Is just simply this is who they are week by week. You see if they can win the turnover battle. Can they find ways to score in the red zone? Is that ultimately what cost them in that game? Was just a couple of plays in the red zone they could have won? You could be talking about, hey, they got out of there against a surging Green Bay team and a pretty good Jordan Love, and they won that game, and they are the number 1 seed right now. That is not the case. They are the number 3 seed right now by virtue of the Cincinnati Bengals and their backup quarterback knocking off the Jacksonville Jaguars and their eventual backup quarterback in C.J. Beathard as Jake Browning leading the Bengals to an overtime win. Now I have to know his name. He beat the Jags.
Yeah,
he helped out the Chiefs.
Dang.
Now I got to know his name's Jake Browning and not Stan Humphries.
All
not
right,
Neil O'Donnell.
BJ Beathard or whatever.
Yeah.
You win a game, I'll learn your name.
Yeah. It's weird. He's a Bengals quarterback, but I keep naming Chargers quarterbacks for some reason. And a Steeler. That's right, Stan Humphries. Get a Steeler, Neil O'Donnell Steeler, Stan Humphrey. I just need to come up with just random Chargers and Steelers quarterbacks. But not anymore.
No.
Jake O'Donnell,
earned
Jake
his
Browning
name.
has earned his name by winning last night, and the Chiefs moving into the 3 seed. They are slowly creeping up. At this pace, they're going to be the 1 seed on Thursday.
Which would be great.
They were the 4 seed yesterday morning. All of a sudden, they're the 3 seed today. 2 seed tomorrow, 1 seed Thursday, and then Super Bowl on Friday?
I think that's how that works.
That's
at least an automatic bid to the Super Bowl, I would imagine.
Look, I mean, we are just simply going by these numbers 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. That's called a pattern.
Yep.
4 to 3, fill in the blank here. It's obviously 2.
Now, that is called a pattern. So if you're a Chiefs wide receiver listening, you may have some issues understanding what we're talking about. We'll explain.
They wouldn't have been able to catch that phrase.
No, they would have dropped it.
It's not it might have gone over their head too.
Definitely.
Because there's some issues with being on the same page. They're also on a different page. They're not learning patterns right now. They're still in fractions. So it's a lot to get to, man.
You could just run a quarter of the routes that you need to.
Unfortunately, a lot of the Chiefs fans are still stuck in history about what the Chiefs offense used to look like.
And the math stinks.
Oh, calculus is not good for this team right now.
It isn't. Chemistry's not good for this team right now.
It's terrible.
Terrible chemistry.
It's awful right now. I think there's probably an offensive philosophy that probably needs to be improved a little bit.
Physical education, though, top notch. Look how that cardio MVS is out there running.
Absolutely.
Great
no
health.
doubt about that. The offensive line, I think there's some, I think they're actually pretty good at the geometry aspect of finding these angles. And Pacheco has certainly improved in that area and his patience and all of that stuff. Yeah. So it's just, reading the players and how they interact with each other and then what they do around the league. There's a sociology, the whole thing, with how they're going to eventually be the 1 seed.
It's an art, not a science. I mean,
most people agree with that. Yeah.
And when they're completely out.
And when they are going like that and looking awesome on offense, it's like music.
You know what they should do? They should get the band back together.
One of their main vocalists is in Miami singing a tune.
We could probably
singing
pivot.
a tune.
Ooh, see, we can now pivot to all music puns. I think we got 10 more minutes of this. I ran out of all classes there, but I think we could do music puns.
Yeah. What? Any particular classes at your school? In high school?
No, in high school,
Cooking,
no.
baking?
No. The only class in college that I took was being national champions in soccer.
That a kid.
There we go.
A kid. Mid-America. Nazarene.
Pioneers!
That's right.
It's a dub!
They have done that. They
Title!
pioneered to a national championship is what they have done.
Yeah!
There you go. That was actually, Josh just brought that in today.
It's very funny you say that, Jason, because I used to have a drawer full of them down there. A drawer full.
Party favors.
Party poppers and party horns used to have a drawer down there.
Party what? So Adam Teicher will join us at 11 o'clock. We'll talk some calculus. You plus me equals us. 11 o'clock from ESPN. Todd Liebel will join us coming up at noon. He is the glue to the entire station here. So when we work with arts and crafts, Todd is a big part of that. We'll play a little Fact or Fiction coming up at 12:30. Braden Gall, 120, ESPN Radio Athlon Sports College Football Insider. A lot to talk about with Braden Gall, so we will get into all of that. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. 913-912-4810, the text line to join us. It is an absolute mash unit in the AFC of quarterbacks. This has been one of those years to where, I'll tell you this, I'm on board with caller Scott yesterday. If you touch Patrick Mahomes, that is a penalty now.
Yep.
Every time a quarterback is touched, an angel gets its wings, and it should be a 15-yard penalty. Put the red jerseys, unless they wear a red jersey, then put the yellow jersey on them, unless you get the point. Just a different colored jersey than everybody else, because this is crazy with the AFC playoff picture right now, where 4 of the 7 teams that are in the playoffs right now will be starting a backup quarterback this weekend.
It's unbelievable. Now,
the top 3 will not. Yeah, I'm not even taking a chance there.
Nope.
I'm not even taking a chance. The top 3 will not. Knock it through. Thank you, John.
John Gruden.
Thanks, buddy. Knock if you don't know what he's doing right now.
Probably emailing.
Sending emails about getting what, the Indiana job? Is that right?
Good for him. He should.
Oh, that'd be so funny.
Probably too late, though. That new Indiana coach thinks Purdue and Notre Dame sucks. So,
they did make. Oh, that's too bad. Was
that
that Indiana that he got?
That was the IU football coach at the end of that basketball game. It was like, oh yeah, Purdue sucks. Michigan and Ohio State suck. Notre Dame sucks. You're the Indiana coach of football. You ain't even the Indiana basketball coach. You're an Indiana basketball game because that's where the fans are. But, I mean, you've got Jacksonville now that's going to start a backup quarterback in C.J. Beathard this weekend. I don't know how long Trevor Lawrence is going to be out. He might be out as long as it takes him to walk to the locker room.
I think he'll get to the MRI machine at the hospital. I think in about 20 minutes or so. He's been walking since the game ended. Since he was sent to the tunnel.
As an aside,
how does that happen?
Was that one of the strangest scenes you guys have seen?
Absolutely.
Scene that you've seen?
Absolutely.
I don't know that I remember watching something like that.
Never.
Where your star franchise can barely put weight on his foot, and for some reason you're having him walk a 10K.
On cleats, on concrete. You see guys limp off on the field sometimes. Patrick Mahomes didn't want the cart to come out and get him. Mm-hmm. So he got to the tunnel.
Yep.
Don't make him walk to the x-ray machine.
I mean, that seemed like there was a pretty wide area to drive it. This was not Austin Powers trying to turn around, okay? There was a lot of room for many carts and gators that can drive, or Jaguars, I don't know, that can drive up and down that tunnel. And yet you've got Trevor Lawrence. Did he get the x-ray at the end of the game? By the time overtime was done, he got there. That was just an odd scene last night to watch your franchise have to walk that far and not be able to put weight on. Typically, you want to immediately take the weight off that particular injury. Typically.
A lower leg injury where he has got one arm around a trainer and the other around a cop. He's not even, it's not a dude in Jags training gear.
It's just a Jag.
It's just a guy. Yeah, he's got a badge. That can't be the plan for if your quarterback's leg might be broken. Insane.
This was like Urban Meyer Jags
Yes,
level of confidence.
absolutely.
Urban would have kicked him on the way out. Get it together. You got 2 ankles.
They told him to walk it off, and so he decided to do it very literally. And absolutely an Urban Meyer clown show moment. Absolutely.
Let me tell you what would be happening in Kansas City right now if anywhere near what took place last night on that play took place with the Chiefs. Yeah. And I'm talking about the scary part of Trevor Lawrence getting injured.
Yep.
But did you see him on the ground when he looked up at his receiver and he said, "What are you doing?" Because if you watch from the end zone angle, He gets to his back foot, stops, and he's going to throw to Parker Washington. And he has to stop because Parker Washington's back is to him. Yep. And then, he takes a couple more steps and then turns around. And by that time, now Trevor Lawrence has been stepped on because he had to pull the football back and then reset in the pocket. And then he gets stepped on by Walker Little. If that is an easy take your drop, throw the hitch right there, your wide receiver's on the same page as the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence is not injured right now. There would be a revolt at One Arrowhead Drive if one of the Chiefs receivers did not turn around and what was an easy pitch and catch timing play did not happen. And then because of that, he gets his foot stepped on or whatever. I mean, it would be disaster right now. That is worst case scenario of a QB and wide receiver not being on the same page. Interceptions happen. Yep. I'll take an interception all day. Well, not every play, but you get it. Yep. I'll take an interception over there's a miscommunication, so the quarterback then has to recoil his arm with the ball and stay in the pocket a little bit longer, and then he's injured because of that. That's disastrous in Jacksonville, and it sucks because that guy's in because you have an injury on the first play of the game to Christian Kirk, who it's not a big deal. I did not have him on any of the single-game parlays at all. Felt good when I'm like, all right, there you go. There's a quick little what? What did he do with his whats? His whats did what? Oh, no.
Here's my little bad beat before I give what I think that is a great angle to take for the exact problem the Chiefs have been having. But in one of my fantasy leagues, I was playing my dad. I needed one more point from Trevor Lawrence or Calvin Ridley. Oh, no. They didn't get it, so the game ended tied, as did the fantasy. Both games ended in a tie.
At the end of regulation.
Calvin Ridley in our non-PPR league had one reception in overtime where he lost 4 yards.
That's right.
So I lost the fantasy matchup to my father, who was playing his third quarterback. It's devastating. But I should have just packed it. I should have been rooting for the tie. 110 would have been just fine. Instead, an overtime loss from a player moving backwards. It really is what makes you feel alive. Unlike the Chiefs wide receivers.
And had it not been a hold, it would have been a Jacksonville Jaguar win,
Yep.
and Calvin Ridley. Yep. It would have been a win for the Jags and you.
Yes, it would. Most importantly for me, it would have been great.
Would you have taken that?
I would have taken that.
Okay, because without Trevor Lawrence, the Jags are probably going to lose a couple more games.
Yeah, that's all right.
So
I would have lived with it.
Did the Bengals really need to win last night? Might as well knock them out because the Bengals ain't going to the playoffs. And if they do, hey, then there's Jake Browning. It's going to be the quarterback.
It is funny, like the way that changed last night. Looking at the Bengals and be like, oh, they might be still a little bit frisky.
They're the same. They have the same record as the Bills.
You're still going to have to cover all those receivers who were there when Joe Burrow was throwing the passes. But you make a great point with the exact way that injury came together. It's compounded also by being stepped on by your linemen. Yeah. That would make it even worse. But you are 100% right that the miscommunication and not being on the same page, that you will rarely see a play so clearly, obviously break down in one exact frame, one little clip. And it is the hard pump towards Washington. He is not turning. Lawrence has to recock it or whatever and then gets rolled up on. The big difference is that Parker Washington last night had his first 6 targets of his NFL career.
Yeah.
Like you said, brought in relief for Christian Kirk and made some good plays. He caught all 6 of his targets. He was apparently in the right spot a very high percentage of the time because he was useful. He looked good.
Yeah, right.
There were people retweeting out their old pre-draft takes about, this Parker Washington, 6th rounder ultimately. Yeah, 6th rounder, 185 overall. But cousins with Joshua Dobbs? Did they mention that last night? I missed that. It's on his Pro Football Reference page. But when you have a guy in game 1 misunderstand his assignment, misread or misremember what his timing on that route needs to be.
Misremember. Nice job, Roger.
I love a little misremembering. Whatever the issue is that pops up there, it cost you your quarterback. And that was in his first legitimate action of the season. So how long are we going to play the game of should Sky Moore have exploded out of his stance or not on what ended up being an interception? Because for Parker Washington, it was on, I can't remember if he got a target later on, but it's what would have been his 7th or most likely 6th or most likely 7th reception of the game, 7th target of the game. That one time, he was not on the same page as his quarterback, and it was as disastrous an outcome as you can get in that moment. It sounds like it might not be as disastrous as it could have been now for Trevor Lawrence, some of the early reports, which is good news.
Yeah.
But, man, one play like that, and everything is falling apart in Jacksonville, at least for the couple of hours it took to get an idea of what was happening with Lawrence.
And it's interesting because the 4 teams, seed 4, 5, 6, and 7, will be starting a backup quarterback this weekend. And then the next 4 of 5 teams that are just on the outside looking in will be starting their starting quarterback. Texans Stroud, Denver Broncos Russell Wilson, Bengals are the outlier, Bills Josh Allen, Chargers Justin Herbert. And those teams are not in the playoffs.
Wild.
But also, Joe Burrow, system quarterback?
Yes, absolutely. I'm in. I am in on that now.
Joe Burrow throwing to those weapons. I don't know. Stephon Diggs in Buffalo, what he did for Josh Allen. Jamar Chase, what he did for Joe. Remember, Joe Burrow was a fine quarterback with T. Higgins. He got injured. It was rookie year, I know. It's early on. But then Jamar Chase gets there with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and Joe Burrow just bursts onto the scene, and it's amazing. And now Jake Browning. Is he Tom Brady?
Wow, did he just get Drew Bledsoe?
Joe Burrow, Drew Bledsoe,
Naming
Tom
convention
Brady,
works.
Jake Browning.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, I like that.
Wally Pipp. Oh, wait, damn it. One step too far. Apologize about that. It's my bad. But I think there's a connection between the NFL and what we saw last night with the college football playoff. There's a connection and also a disconnection with both of those that I do want to get into and talk about at some point today. On the other side of the break, though, we'll take a timeout, 913-912-4810. We'll take a timeout. I do want to talk about a couple of things that came out of the Green Bay game. I liked what I saw from Wanya Morris watching the game again last night and watching some of the All-22. I want to add some perspective to the penalties with Jawan Taylor. And I am going to be labeled as a Jawan Taylor defender. That's fine, whatever. And I also want to talk a little bit about Patrick Mahomes and Rashee Rice. So we'll get into some of those things as the show continues. 913-912-4810. And maybe even I don't typically go glass half empty. I'm almost always the glass half full, find the positive. There is a negative spin on what the Chiefs were able to do offensively, but yet what they weren't able to do, even though they were able to do that. That's really weird phrasing, but I promise it will make sense in my mind, hopefully others' minds, coming up next. More Zone right after this. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. So the glass half empty and the thing that they were able to do, but bad that they were able to do that, but not able to do something, it's kind of simplistic, but also it's a little worrisome because, you know, when we were talking about the Chiefs and, let's say, you know, Eagles, Raiders, whatever it be, you know, they win the Raiders game, they score, you know, 31 points or whatever, and we talk about that, hey, you know what? This is a team that didn't turn it over. They didn't commit many penalties. They, you know, didn't have those negative plays. They didn't have the drop passes except for, you know, one. Rashee Rice looked awesome, and they had just the one drop pass or whatever. And yet they were still down 14-0, and it was like they looked rough there. They end up scoring 31 points. That's awesome, whatever. So, you know, you can look at it glass half full, glass half empty with that, okay, they were able to accomplish that, but can they do that each and every week? Well, not necessarily. One of the things that I think is concerning is when we've talked about what can the Chiefs do to get better offensively and to get more consistent. Well, get Rashee Rice involved. Get the ball to Rashee Rice more. Awesome. Okay, you got the ball to Rashee Rice more. The other one was pound the running game. Run the ball, run the ball. If they can establish the run, they are not executing against a light box. They've got 5 or 6 guys in the box, and the Chiefs are handing it off, and they're still not gaining yards. That is a massive problem, okay? It is one thing to say, why don't you run the football? It's another thing to say, for whatever reason right now, they cannot do it. They cannot run the football, even against light boxes. Is it concerning that they were able to run the football with Isaiah Pacheco to the tune of 120 yards and averaging 6 yards per carry and still scored 19 points? Because that then takes that carrot away.
Yep.
That the striving for, if you do this, then you'll be able to be consistent. If you do this, then you can be consistent. If they can get the running game going, boy, now that's going to open up everything over the top. And now you're going to be able to score some points and have easier drives. Well, they were pounding the hell out of the rock and the hell out of the Green Bay Packers on Sunday night. And Pacheco was a bat out of hell in that game. And they scored 19. Now, you could say, well, they scored 19 because they had limited possessions. If they had a 10-possession game, maybe they get another touchdown and a field goal, and now all of a sudden you're talking about almost 30 points.
Maybe.
If you didn't go for 2, you know, you might be talking about 30 points there. If you get another couple of possessions early in the game or in the third quarter, whatever, if that thing wasn't, just the life just sucked out of that game on Sunday night with how long those 2 first drives for the Packers were. Is that a concern to you, or is their perspective of this is one of those games where they've had the fewest drives in the Patrick Mahomes era in this particular game? They scored 19 points. They had a couple more drives. Maybe they could put a couple more, maybe put a touchdown and a field goal on the board, and we're talking about 30 and going, okay, see, they ran the ball and they got to 30.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to note the number of possessions because, like, that is an outrageous outlier in NFL football, especially that first half. And you have to note that in the first half, they moved the football pretty well. The red zone problems and the sacks and penalties and all of that ends up, taking you out of range there or forcing your hand over the field goal. That all being said, this actually kind of dovetails with what ended up being my 3 days baked take on Chiefs Raiders of getting here on Thursday, you being voiceless, and then having all the time in the world. Hey, I didn't do a post-game show for Chiefs Raiders.
Yeah,
let me really think
see?
about all this and revisiting
Nice.
stuff. So the thing that ended up rising to the surface that made me feel a little bit like a hater last week was this thought of, hey, look, they did good things here. Getting the ball to Rashee Rice more is a great step for this offense, but this can't be its final evolution. It cannot just be an offense that is hand the ball off a little more often, get some real designed touches to Rashee Rice, and then find Travis Kelce when he's not double and triple teamed. That was great against the Raiders, and we saw another version of that against Green Bay, and it was not great. It was fine. It was fine if your veteran deep threat wide receiver runs the route your quarterback is expecting. It would have been good enough, probably. if your second round draft pick at wide receiver is where Patrick Mahomes expects him to be, it probably would have been enough. So Pacheco worked, and that's a good thing, and that was enough. And Rashee Rice, the way they used him, as I mentioned yesterday, the average depth of target of 1 yard is another insane outlier, but those were working. I'm not saying they should have forced more deep stuff to Rashee Rice and taken away the short stuff. Just also play him like a real receiver. Leave him on the field for third downs. Let's see what happens there. But what I think we saw against Green Bay that is right in that little dichotomy of silver lining or maybe a silver cloud, they were able to do a lot of the things we've been asking them to do more of, and that's great.
Yes.
And it wasn't enough, especially also, again, in this case, on the first and only time when the defense had a legit bad day. If they win this game, I'd love to just go ahead and tinker with the numbers, just like MVS being in the right place, but if he caught a pass against the Eagles, Patrick Mahomes is leading MVP conversations right now, which is kind of inherently dumb, but it is what it is. But if you don't have to go for 2 or whatever, it's a 20-point effort. If you hold the pack, if you beat the Packers 20-13, 19-17, somewhere in those margins, which is where all of us, I wrote down a lot of the predictions we got from people on Thursday and Friday, but everybody was in like, yeah, Chiefs 20-something, Packers high teens. Like that was pretty much the final score predicted.
Because we thought they were going to carry over what they did against the Raiders to the Packers. Jair Alexander not playing. The passing game should be, really good.
A little more of the passing game rising, but certainly not expecting the defense to look the worst it's looked all year when Jordan Love is playing pretty good football. The margins are very, very fine, but what is, to me, the worst part of it, the most gray part in this silver cloud, is that they did do all of those things, which was ultimately kind of the only levers they had left to pull.
Yeah.
More Pacheco, more Rashee Rice. Now we're like more Richie James, more Noah Gray.
Right. You feel like you're grasping at straws at this point, just trying to find anything. You're in the dark.
That's right.
And any port in a storm right now.
That's
it's
right.
Like, I don't care where a dock is. Just get me there because this thing is about to capsize, and we're concerned.
And you saw the light for Rice and Pacheco, and they were able to maneuver around it. And now what? And now I don't know.
I don't either. And again, there could be some context with the limited numbers of possessions, and they were able to move the football. And I know there's a frustration, and I get it, that the last 3 drives, Pacheco carried the ball 1 time.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, he carried the ball on when they were down 21-19. He carried the ball on first down. Second down was the MVS and Patrick Mahomes miss on the deep shot that I would probably say is more the Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce miss because when you watch the All-22, that is one. We talked about it yesterday. I think that's one that's going to stick in Patrick Mahomes' crawl. I think watching the All-22 is even more like, I mean, there's just nobody guards Kelce. He's just standing there waving his arms, and when he turns and runs, he might have been at like the 40 or the 45. You're talking about 1st and 10, but
if MVS was ahead in the progression there, you cannot penalize a quarterback for throwing to an open receiver.
Totally agree.
Even when that receiver has totally lost his trust, it's so frustrating.
Absolutely, and that's where it's like, okay, he had 3 guys open.
Yeah.
Because Sky Moore was also wide open down at the bottom of the screen, running an out that they
had him.
So that was interesting. What a terrible defensive coverage for the Packers on that one play.
I disagree. It was great coverage. They left MVS wide ass open.
That's a good point. You know what? You're right. They left MVS so wide open that Mahomes didn't just stare down Kelce.
That's right. You have to bait him. Defensive backs bait the eyes of quarterbacks all the time, and for opposing defenses now, it's no. Make it look like MVS is so open that he has to throw to him.
Yeah, and that was the second down play, and then third down was 3rd and 8. And you're not going to hand off to Pacheco, and that was the Richie James getting tackled. So he carried the ball that one time. The next possession, they had a first down play, which wasn't Pacheco. But then the second down play was the pass interference. The next play was 1st and 10, which was the interception.
Yep.
That's the one that if people want to complain, I am totally in agreement there. I am convinced and will be convinced, unless Patrick Mahomes or somebody else says otherwise, that was an RPO, and the offensive line thought they were running the ball. Because how many pass plays do you see Creed Humphrey 2 yards down the field when Mahomes throws the football? How many pass plays do you see Trey Smith turning and running to a linebacker when Mahomes is throwing the football? How many pass plays do you see Kadarius Toney crashing down to block a linebacker? I think everybody but Mahomes and Sky Moore thought that was going to be a pass.
A run.
Oh, run. Sorry. I think everybody but Mahomes and Sky Moore thought that was going to be a run. And by the way, it was wide open up the middle. And that could be even more to where Mahomes just hand it off. Because that's where you look at it and go, okay, now I don't mind the aggressiveness, but you're down 2. Or is that 24-19 at that point? No, yeah, because it was 21-19 when they had the 3-and-out. Then the Packers scored the
24-19.
24-19 when they threw the interception.
Yep.
27-19 when MVS got tackled. It's just 3 possessions where they could have taken the lead or tied, and they come away with no points, a punt, an interception, and a turnover on downs, whatever, an end of game. That's the one that if you look at it and go, all right, continue to ride Pacheco, because I think that's a big gain. Like the middle is wide open. Trace and also how many straight passing plays do you see your right guard pull and fill in a gap and be running towards a linebacker? You know, when that happens, those are things that take place from time to time. I want Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback all day, every time. I will choose him 100 out of 100. He had me at hello, or the Chiefs, there's been a trade in 2017. He had me at there's been a trade. The Chiefs have moved up to number 10. All right, he had me there. I won him 100 times out of 100 times. But I think there are also some times where it's a pretty obvious run, and everybody on the field thinks it's going to be a run, except for Mahomes. The interception in the AFC Championship game in the third quarter, that was thrown to the defensive lineman. Still convinced that was an RPO that the offensive line thought was a handoff because they were all going to the next level, and it was crazy wide open up the middle. Nobody was there because they were dropping 8 at that point. Nobody was there, and Mahomes pulled it and went to throw, and all of a sudden the defensive end, I think, dropped back, and Mahomes was like, oh, crap, that guy's not there anymore. Now what? Well, I also got guys that are running down the field that are going to be, illegal man downfield, so now I've got to throw the ball. It happens. Those things take place. He is not a perfect quarterback. He never will be. But I love that he's my quarterback. I love that he's a quarterback of the team that I root for. But there are a lot of people that have a hand in this. And maybe that's part of the positive of if you see the running game like that with Pacheco, that maybe then this is all part of the growth continuing with Mahomes, who was an uber-aggressive player, and I don't want to take that away from him. I don't want to put the reins on Patrick Mahomes. I want him to be a Mustang and just ride free. I don't want to break him and have him be somebody that, just turns into a system quarterback. But there are elements to where it's like, you know what, we are pounding the rock, and this offensive line is opening up huge holes. And Pacheco is the star today. Let's just ride this star because we're down by, 4 points or 5 points right now. Let's go put a touchdown on the board and take the lead and get out of here.
And I think you've couched all of the Mahomes stuff properly, but situationally and also what he checked into with Sky there, it's just not a time you need to do that. If it's 1st and 10, and what I've said recently about this receiver notwithstanding, if it's 1st and 10 and you see a shot for MVS to run a straight line down the field and you got the look you want and you're going to give him a deep ball with a step beyond the corner and no help above, hey, you know what?
And it's going to be incomplete.
Right, right. But you know what? It won't be intercepted. Like that actually, if you're saying, hey, look, we are going to forego a 6 or 7 yard run here because I think there's a 60-yard touchdown, what in this case would have been a 50-yard touchdown down the sideline. All right. Risk reward. Yeah. Risk reward there is okay.
It's on 1st down. You're being aggressive, but it's not aggressive at the expense of dangerous.
But 1st and 10 at midfield, Sky Moore, the interception is made just past the sticks. The shot, and he's going right out of bounds after it.
Yeah.
The shot there was for 11 yards on 1st down.
Yeah.
That's not worth it. It's not, even if you, maybe especially if you don't trust that receiver is actually reading your signal correctly. I mean, it's just the one thing that, as we've kind of unpacked this, I'm a little bit surprised by is that that's not what Mahomes went to postgame. Yeah. He didn't say, I shouldn't have checked us into that or whatever. Yeah. It was, I probably should have put it on his back shoulder, which I still kind of disagree with, the way that Sky leaves the line of scrimmage and breaks out. But Mahomes didn't go to that as the mea culpa. I was like, I should have just handed it to Isaiah, because that would have been an easy one for him to do, and then totally forego the Sky element. I'm not sure if that played into it. Maybe that's something he'll talk about on Wednesday. I'm guessing he'll be asked about it tomorrow.
Yeah. And you know what? Maybe the positive spin on this is they have opportunities to win that game, and so many massive plays that seemed like they were momentum swinging, win probability adding plays seem to go against the Chiefs so often. Yeah. 1st and 5 on the first drive, 1st and goal from the 5, you get sacked. Go to the 4th and 1 play for the Packers. Go to the 2nd and 16 that Dobbs has the 33-yard catch or the 27-yard catch, whichever one was the 4th and 1 or the 2nd and 16. When there was a breakdown in coverage somehow, whether that was L'Jarius Sneed or was Justin Reed or was Willie Gay, one of those 3 guys was supposed to be there where Romeo Dobbs was roaming free. If it's that play, if it's the MVS pass interference non-call, the interception with Mahomes, the non-call on Richie James, there were a lot of plays, some of them self-induced, some of them kind of out of your control. But it felt like a good portion of those went against the Chiefs, that it's one of those to where you say any given Sunday, next time those two teams play, if they matched up this week, who's favored in Vegas? Are the Chiefs still favored by 3, even after watching that game? What's the line end up being on that one if they played again this weekend? Because it really felt like a lot of the, and again, that's what we talked about with the 3-point shooter at the end of the shot clock, just heaves it at the goal, bounces off the backboard, goes in, and you're like, wow, it's not our day. It's just not our day. That's kind of what it felt like. And adding, injury to insult is, Brian Cook getting injured and Drew Tranquil getting injured. It may be a silver lining with Donovan Smith being injured. Because, man, I liked what I saw from Wanya Morris. I'm telling you, if this is going to be a team that is going to be relying more on the run and be a team that says, you know what, our identity is going to change to Isaiah Pacheco, who got, an angry run from Kyle Brandt today with his, the scepter. I almost said the saber because we got lightsabers everywhere for the
That would
Mavericks.
also be pretty sweet.
But the scepter, Pacheco got an angry run on the obvious one that, he kind of was carried.
Yes.
But, he still created a lot of that to get down to then be carried. If that's going to be part of the identity, Wanya Morris is more athletic than Donovan Smith, and he looked pretty damn good in the run blocking. I don't know the grading or how the grades go with PFF. I'm not sure. But I watched every snap of Wanya Morris specifically last night just to see what was going on outside of watching the game. Mm-hmm. And when it was a run, I was like, damn, that was a pretty good block. Wow, he doubled with Tooney, got Tooney the leverage, and then went to the next level and got the linebacker. Wow.
That's what you like to see.
That's a rookie who's playing 29 snaps, or 40, whatever it ends up being that he played. He played from the 3rd drive on. So
which was the second half.
It is. You're right.
You say
yes.
The 3rd drive on in any other game.
He played the 4th play of the 1st drive. He came in for Donovan Smith and finished that drive. And then Donovan Smith finished the half, which was 1 drive and a kneel.
Right.
And then Wanya Morris came in the 3rd quarter and played the rest of the game. I thought he looked pretty damn good. And if that's somebody that you're wondering, is he a guy that can play left tackle for you in the future? Now, there were obvious times where they had a tight end in there. They brought Pacheco or Clyde Edwards-Helaire over to help double. There were times where a specific blocking scheme was Tooney to help out with Wanya Morris. That was going on. So maybe the Chiefs at that time were like, look, we got to change this because I don't know that we trust him. Mm-hmm. But after watching the film, I think there should be a little more trust to him if, in fact, Donovan Smith can't go this weekend, or if, in fact, they simply say, it ain't a rebuild, but let's see what the dude has, because he's a much better run blocker than Donovan Smith, who was getting his butt whipped and has a number of times in the run game and is not nearly as athletic as Wanya Morris is. Let's see what he does, because it is such a small sample size. Mm-hmm. But I saw in that game a possibility of, okay, he could be an answer at left tackle moving forward. It's not a Cam Irving, old Mother Hubbard, and Cam Irving is in the cupboard. Good luck.
Next, maybe just see if he can track a deep ball.
All right, Adam Teicher going to join us in the next couple segments. We'll talk some Chiefs with Adam Teicher from ESPN, Chiefs Insider. We're going to do the college football playoff talk as well. Didn't really get into that yesterday because, the Chiefs lost. Had they just won in a simple ho-hum game, maybe like last Monday after they beat the Raiders when it was like, hey, open phone lines for a couple of hours, and everybody's like, nah, I'm good. Open phone lines for a couple hours with the Packers. I got a call right now because I am pissed. If it was a little bit like that, yeah, we probably could have got more into the college football playoff, but we will certainly do that. Plenty of time to do it. They ain't starting it anytime soon. It's going to be 2024 when that playoff takes place. Adam Teicher next.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. We will talk with Todd Lebo coming up at noon. A little Fact or Fiction with Todd Lebo, Braden Gall in the 1 o'clock hour. Adam Teicher right now with us from ESPN. Presented by Twin Peaks. Step up your lunch game at Twin Peaks. Enjoy light yet hearty combos put together for you. Available at an awesome price featuring savory soups, crisp salads, and a variety of sandwiches to satisfy your every craving. Enjoy your next lunch break with Twin Peaks. Adam Teicher joining us here on this Tuesday. Adam, how are you, sir?
Good, Jason. How are you doing today?
I am doing just fine. Let's talk about this Chiefs team getting ready for the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. Let's look back before we look forward. Your reaction to what took place there in Lambeau as the Chiefs fall 27-19?
Yeah, I've got a lot of reactions. This was the second straight game where the Chiefs defensively allowed more than 6 yards of play, which is those are the two season highs, and I'm just wondering whether teams are starting to figure that out a little bit defensively. It's not a huge difference, but they had not allowed more than 6 yards of play until the Raiders game, and now it's 2 straight. And so I'm wondering what about the defense now. Season high 27 points. The Chiefs, our team's starting to figure them out a little bit. And the other thing is obviously offensively they're still really struggling. And that last drive was just. That was an epic drive. Just all these weird things happening, yes. And you never really, hey, maybe if they get that pass interference call going their way, then they're inside the 10. Maybe then they can punch it in. But did you ever really feel like they were going to score on that drive? Nothing was really looked right on that drive. So it was just. Kind of a messy drive, not really what you want to see from a championship contender trying to win a game like that.
So I'm going to take those in order that you talked about there. Let's talk about the defensive side of it first, because obviously there's so much talk about the offense. That's been the main thing we've discussed all season long, and it's been positive about the defense. Let's talk about this defense. Second straight game, 6 yards per play, and wondering if teams figured something out. One of the things that I brought up yesterday is I wonder, and teams would have to be built like this, but if they figured something out of we're going to run power up the middle against this team, and we can keep them off balance side to side with different players, receivers, different plays. I think the Packers did a good enough job with Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, and some of the pop passes, reverses, just quick throws down the line of scrimmage, but also then boom, right up the middle, power, A.J. Dillon. That mix of, hey, you can't just clog the middle, because we still want to make sure you're going to guard us sideline to sideline. It was a great game plan by LaFleur. Josh Jacobs in the first half with the Raiders and the Chiefs, first half he had 12 carries for 94 yards. Now that 63-yarder was a big freaking play, but it was also a Josh Jacobs who's a tougher runner and more of your prototypical running game like the Raiders and Packers. And back-to-back weeks, that has been the case. And it is not a surprise or a secret, Adam, that the Chiefs, if you're talking about one side or one part of the defense that has been less than the other, it's been the running defense that has been an issue this year, that the passing defense has been phenomenal. Is that something the teams have maybe figured out of? Can we run power right up the middle at this team while trying to keep them off balance sideline to sideline? But, running these outside zones and these outside plays is the strength of the Chiefs because they are one of the faster and sound tackling teams in the NFL, defenses.
Yeah, and, that's maybe where Nick Bolton would help out for sure. That's certainly an area where he could be of help to the Chiefs, and I would expect that he'll be back this week. So, the thing that happened here, another thing that's happened only in the last 2 games to the Chiefs is they've been allowing a lot of third down conversions.
Yeah.
The first 10 games of the year, they were, or I guess, it would have been 10 games. They're 8-4. So the first 10 games, they had not allowed third downs better than 50%. Actually, not even 50%. 40-some percent was their highest third down percentage conversions allowed in a game. The last two have been exactly 50%. And I got to go back and look this up, but I think there were a lot of shorter yardage third downs in the last 2 weeks than maybe there had been in some previous games. And some of that is what you're talking about. I think there's teams are, not facing, second and 10s or second and 12s or whatever against the Chiefs. They're facing, second and 6, second and 5, and they're able to convert when they get to third down. So, I think there is something to that. And, the other thing the last two games have had in common, getting a couple touchdowns scored on them early. The Raiders missed that field goal in between, but the last two games been pretty slow starts for the Chiefs defensively.
Yeah, and a couple of times this year the Chiefs have had that happen to them in the first half, and the previous two, they locked up. It was 17 points in the first half to the Chargers, 0 in the second half. 14 points to the Raiders in the first half. They gave up, 3 points the rest of the game to the Raiders in that matchup. This one, 14 points in the first half, but then they gave up 15 in the second half. So, you dig that hole, you put yourself in a position to where a play here or there, and all of a sudden you're giving up scoring drives. I mean, the 4th down and 1 is ended up being a 7-point play. I mean, if they don't convert that pass, to Romeo Doubs, it's the Chiefs' ball, and they're down by 2 at that point with the ball at midfield. But they do complete the pass, whatever. Even if there's a penalty, it would have been 4th and 11, and the Packers would have punted, which could have been a pretty easy call of illegal hands to the face. But that play happens, and now you give up 7 instead of getting off the field, where you've already given up 14 in the first half. So you've put yourself in a pretty decent hole to where you've got to come through and make those plays. Next drive, 2nd and 16. You're about to get off the field with a couple of short passes, hopefully, and you give up a 30-yard play to Romeo Doubs in a protection or a coverage breakdown in some way, shape, or form. I mean, those two plays are crucial because you're talking about 10 points on the board in those drives with that 2nd and 16 conversion and the 4th and 1 conversion.
Yeah, and so things just don't seem as as airtight with the Chiefs defensively the last couple weeks. That Romeo Doubs play you're talking about, on the one hand, you feel like you should just be tipping your hat to the Packers on that one. I mean, Love threw it up there, and Doubs is the one who made a play. But none of the Chiefs defense backs really reacted to the ball. They were just sort of standing around back there, and and Dobbs is the one who made the play. So, I just feel like the Chiefs were so sharp defensively for most of the season, and we just haven't seen that. Maybe a little bit in the second half in Vegas a couple weeks ago, but we haven't seen that as much recently. So I'm just wondering a little bit whether things are starting to go back the other way a little bit, or whether this is just a couple games and they'll figure some things out against Buffalo, and then they certainly have a get healthy game against the Patriots in 2 weeks.
And also, have to throw in the fact that Drew Tranquill gets hurt, so you are down to your third middle linebacker for most of that game. And then the last drive and a half for the Packers was without Brian Cook in the game. So, you're playing with your, backup safety in there, Mike Edwards, who's done a really nice job as a third safety. I am concerned with him as a second safety. I think that's where he struggled with the Bucs. I hope that's not the case. I talked about it when they signed him, Adam. You and I had the discussion. I love the signing because the first 3 years in the league for Mike Edwards, he was a third safety in Tampa, and he was pretty good. And his 4th year, they put him as a starter, and he regressed a decent amount. And coming here to be the third safety, I was pumped about it. And he's played phenomenal football. I'm just concerned that over the next few weeks, people won't have the same bright view of Mike Edwards as they had when he was the third safety, now that he's going to be filling in for Brian Cook. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope that, he fills in and he's awesome. But you do have a couple of drives there where the Packers are putting points on the board without Brian Cook, and you got most of the game without Drew Tranquill and Nick Bolton on the field with your signal caller, and you also had a possession a few plays in a row to where Justin Reed wasn't out there either. This was a game in which some injuries started to catch up with them with some of their depth. So I don't know how much that may have played a factor with Cochran on the field on defense as opposed to if there was Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquill if they were fully healthy.
Yeah. So it is, but this is the kind of stuff you have to put up with during the course of the season, and
no doubt,
they'll have to figure out a way. But I'm with you on the Brian Cook thing. I think that's going to be a bigger loss than maybe a lot of fans realize. That he does a lot of stuff for the Chiefs, and assuming he's going to be out for a little while, maybe the Chiefs can get Shamari Connor more involved than they have been. But going to be interesting to see how they handle this, no doubt.
Is there a positive silver lining to take away from Brian Cook and the fact that we haven't heard any news? Is this one of those no news is good news for Brian Cook, that it seemed like when he was being carted off that was the last time the Chiefs were going to see that guy playing football this year? Is there some no news is good news for you? Silver lining that even Andy Reid is like, well, they're still looking into some things with that ankle.
Yeah, I wouldn't be as that optimistic. I mean, I did see him on crutches after the game, which is not a surprise given what that injury looked like. So I would expect it's going to be a little while for him. Yeah. But, hey, once in a while we are surprised by these things, but I wouldn't expect it in this case.
Yeah. If it's a little while, I think Chiefs fans would probably take that. I'm just what I'm planning on is I'm planning on him being out for the season, and I'll be pleasantly surprised if he's not. So
that's probably the best way to look at it, I would think.
I don't want to be like, he's going to be out for a month. What? He's out for the season? That sucks. No. We'll see what happens with that. Adam Teicher from ESPN is our guest. How significant, big picture, do you think the loss was to the Packers, or was it, very significant in your mind, or just one of those things over the course of 17 games? That particular loss and what it may mean for them, but also what it may mean for the AFC playoff picture.
Yeah, well, I feel like about that question the same way I did after they lost to the Eagles. I mean, hey, you want to win. I mean, it certainly helps if you win, but it's not a crushing thing. I mean, who doesn't think that if the Chiefs win out, they won't be the number one seed? I mean, I can almost promise you they will. I mean, Miami plays Baltimore. Somebody's got to lose that game. Yep. So at that point, if the Chiefs win out, you're looking for either Baltimore or Miami to lose, the winner of that game to lose one game, and I feel like that's going to happen. So I feel like the Chiefs are still in pretty good shape. If you're going to lose any of their last 6 games, this was the one just because, it's an NFC game. It doesn't really hurt them in terms of tiebreakers. Now, from here on out, you're cutting into bone a little bit if they lose. So, they had a little bit of margin for error, even though they were, now that they've fallen behind. So, to me, the bigger issue is not, where they are in the standings or anything like that. It's how they're playing. I just, this is not, if you're chasing a number one seed, this is not really how you want to be playing. And, we've seen situations turn around for the Chiefs and other teams late in the season. You remember the 2019, the first Super Bowl year. They were 6-4 and not playing very well defensively. And all of a sudden, the light came on for them defensively, and it turned around. And they led the league in scoring defense the last 6 games and played well on defense in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. So, it is possible, but to me the bigger concern is how they're playing, not where they are in the standings or the fact they lost a game the other day.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting discussion of a choice. Like, okay, you get the Chiefs playing phenomenal football and playing what you feel like is their best, but hey, look, they're the 4 seed. They got to go on the road. They got to play a home game in week number 1 with the wild card, but then a couple of road games if they want to make the Super Bowl, but they're playing phenomenal football. Or they just feel like they're off a tick, but they got the number 1 seed. I mean, I'd rather this team be playing, really, really good football than worry about where they have to play the game.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a death sentence for the Chiefs to have to go on the road in the playoffs. If they don't get the number 1 seed, that's no big deal. They've been so good and so efficient over the years. In going on the road, and their record is about as good or maybe as good under Andy Reid on the road, but they've had some big wins there. So I don't think it's a catastrophe if they have to go on the road. I think any team there is, I think the Chiefs have a better shot at going on the road and winning. But again, the issue is how they're playing. That's going to make it difficult when they go on the road. It's going to make it difficult for them at Arrowhead Stadium too, for that matter, against a good team. They need to play better. That's to me way more important than where they play the games.
Adam Teicher from ESPN is our guest. Adam, I loved the Q&A, the back and forth with the media, with the official there after the game in the media room, just to get their explanation on everything and just able to offer questions and then some follow-ups and things like that. That was really good in Fantasyland. That would have been awesome to be able to do that. The poll reporter, you've done that for so long. How does that work? Because I know that, you get an opportunity to ask him questions, but man, so many times it just feels insufficient in some of the answers. And then it's sort of like, okay, thanks. And then, hey, here's the poll report, quotes we got from the referee. You've done it for so long. I mean, is it within sort of standard operating procedure? Is it okay to push back on some questions and offer follow-ups, or is it okay? You get a couple of questions and then all right, leave us alone. We've got a plane to catch.
Yeah, there's not a lot of chance in those interviews to say, hey, well, I don't like your answer. Give me a better one. I mean, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room there, and so, a lot of times you just sort of have to take the league's explanation and then the league looks bad for what its explanation was. I mean, the explanation on both of those penalties, the hit on Mahomes along the sideline and then the non-pass interference call were they were insufficient. I mean, they called a penalty they shouldn't have called on the hit on Mahomes, and they didn't call a penalty they should have called. I mean, it was just a backwards drive in a lot of ways for a lot of things on that drive. I mean, it was just an upside down drive, I think. And so to answer your question, no. I mean, certainly you can say, hey, how could you have seen that when it didn't happen? But hey, they gave you the explanation, and clearly they were wrong, but at least they're out there answering questions for, which I give them partial credit for.
Has there been a situation with you as the pool reporter to where you had an official actually say, yeah, we got that one wrong. Yeah, looking back now, I mean, this is the way it should have been officiated, adjudicated, whatever. We got that one wrong, because it kind of feels like it's from the union of deny, double down. Deny, double down. You got it right, and here's the reason. You can spin this as to how you got this right, but you definitely got it right. Do not admit a mistake, because my goodness, the world knowing that you might have made a mistake, even though we all know that was pass interference.
Yeah, no, I don't recall them ever saying that.
Amazing.
A lot of times when we end up doing these, it's less, a black and white call like, that pass interference or the hit on Mahomes, and more how a rule is enforced or things that are a little less clear. Hey, what happened on this particular instance, rather than why wasn't this a penalty? That kind of thing. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. I don't know that in either case, but particularly the pass interference call, I don't know you needed an explanation from the league. I don't need you needed to be told, well, we screwed up. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that they screwed up, and hey, and that kind of stuff happens. And you remember there was a time where you could review pass interference penalties. So that's one clearly where the Chiefs would have benefited. But I love what Pat Mahomes had to say about it afterwards. He goes, you know what? It's not on the referees to win the game for us. It's on us to win it. And so, okay, let's say the Chiefs get that call, and they got 14 seconds left. They're on the 5-6 yard line, something like that. Do they score? Are you confident? I mean, they got a better chance than doing it from the 33-yard line, but are you confident they're going to score right there? I'm not. And even if they do, they got to get the 2-point conversion. And even then, they're still going into overtime. So I just feel like, and that's another thing, I feel like Andy Reid made a mistake going for 2. at the when he did there
in the early third quarter.
I feel like yes, because when you do that, that's great. If you make it, you tie it up. But so what? I mean, the Packers are still going to get the ball back. They're going to score again, probably. Keep it a one-score game. Kick the point, and then when the Packers score, as they did, you make it an 8-point game instead of a 9-point game. So I didn't like the call there either.
Yeah, it's. I know that at that point I was a little surprised that they were going for 2. It's just not something that I typically expect from Andy Reid to go for 2 that early.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised by it, and I was even more surprised that it was just simply a handoff to the left, which it's interesting because there's an element that feels like it's a result. Mad about the play call because of the result there. Because the Chiefs are so creative, right? I mean, they talk about how creative they are, and they've got all these different bells and whistles and things that they do, that's almost the change-up is to hand off to Isaiah Pacheco to say, we're just going to run at you for 3 yards. We've been running the ball well. We're going to continue running the ball well, and we think this is the best chance here to where the Eagles might. The play was just to be, no, we're just going right at you. Unfortunately, guys have to execute, and, that's not what happened. They did not execute on the 2-point play because Joe Thuney got beat by Wyatt, and Blake Bell got beat by Smith. And what was initially a wide-open hole with the second-level hole with Wanya Morris going to the second level and Kelsey blocking, and that thing was a beautiful alley. But by the time Pacheco got there, Wyatt had already moved Thuney out of the way to go and start to plug up the hole, and Blake Bell was on his knees. and Preston Smith had beat him. And at that point, it was toast. I thought it was an interesting call. The fact that it was stopped, it's annoying, but it felt like their fastball is all of the different bells and whistles and being creative. And this was more of, no, we're going to throw a changeup at you that maybe you're not expecting. And credit the Packers because they made the play.
Yeah, and I don't credit the play call so much. I mean, I feel like as you said, I mean, they could have scored on that had a couple of guys done their job a little better. So I don't have that. That's one thing Andy Reid doesn't have the luxury of is knowing who's going to execute on a given play.
Right.
You should know from the matchups, well, Wyatt's going to beat Thuney on this. Maybe that's where he's guilty, or Preston Smith's going to beat Blake Bell on this or whatever. But so we shouldn't run that play, not in a big situation at any rate. So maybe that's where you blame him. But other than that, I don't have a problem with the play call. But Andy Reid's not been a guy who's chased points. I feel like his calm in the games and situations like that has been really good for the Chiefs over the years. Hey, we're not gonna panic here. We don't need to play like our hair's on fire. Let's just go kick this thing, stay down by 1. Even if the Packers score again, they're only gonna be up 1 score, assuming they kick instead of going for 2, which I'm sure they would have. And then, so at the end, the Chiefs are playing to win the game possibly if if they wanted to go for 2 on that final drive had they scored, or certainly do the easy thing and kick and then send it in overtime that way. So I felt like it just added another layer of pressure to the Chiefs that, hey, even if you score here, it might not be good enough to, and even then you're just going to go into overtime here.
Is there a bigger takeaway then with Andy Reid making that decision? Was he, subconsciously admitting that he thought points were at a premium and his offense isn't the offense that typically you expect, and it's going to take longer to score, and his defense isn't getting off the field and stopping the Packers? That, we need to tie it up right now and be down by 2, because if they go and kick a field goal, I don't want to have to need a touchdown then to win the game, or a field goal then to tie. So if I kick the extra point here and I'm down by 1 and they kick a field goal, now I'm down by 4. Is there a bigger takeaway maybe that Andy Reid is looking at and saying, you know what, I need to start coaching differently, and if we got a touchdown, we need to go for 2 there, because I don't know how many times we're going to be in this position to score and tie it up, and our defense isn't really playing great right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's possible. I mean, I meant to ask him. That was one of the things I wanted to ask him after the game, and it sort of got lost in the shuffle with all that stuff going on that final drive, and I didn't get a chance. And then yesterday, I was on a plane when he was doing his his thing there, so I didn't get a chance even yesterday to ask him. But maybe tomorrow I'll just see what his thinking was, and maybe he'll share that.
Visiting with Adam Teicher. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling, and continue our conversation with our Chiefs insider from ESPN, Adam Teicher. He is presented by Twin Peaks. More Zone coming up next. Adam Teicher from ESPN Chiefs Insider, our guest here on this Tuesday, is presented by Twin Peaks. Enjoy your next lunch break with Twin Peaks. Adam, one of the things I wanted to talk about was the Chiefs and the turnovers. Just a couple of nuggets with this, and then we'll move on to some other things and get your thoughts on this Bills matchup coming up on Sunday. But I went back and looked, and since the Chargers game that the Chiefs have had, they have turned the ball over 8 times, not counting turnover on downs. So 8 actual turnovers where they fumbled it or thrown an interception since that Chargers game. 6 of those 8 have come on first down. The other 2, it was a 3rd and 20 interception and a 4th and 27 interception. And not only that, Adam, of the 6 first down turnovers, 5 of those have come in opponent territory. Is there something to glean, to take away? Are they too aggressive on first down? Is it rely more on Pacheco? Is it, I don't know what to take away. It's just random that, they have a turnover at the plus 14, the plus 14, the plus 19, the plus 43, the plus 49, and then the minus 35 are the 6 turnovers on first down in the last 4 games.
Yeah, and so obviously, I don't know that there's a common thread there, other than they're giving up points and they're losing close games when they lose, and that's tough to do. You don't want turnovers ever, but I'm okay with the occasional turnover if they come in acceptable ratio to big plays. And so when the Chiefs are being aggressive, I'm never too hard on them when they're turning the ball over, because sometimes you have to push it when you're going downfield, but they're not getting those this year, and as we know. So to me, the turnovers, they got to do whatever they got to do to hang on to the ball. I mean, it's more important than ever not to turn the ball over in the Pat Mahomes era. It's more important for them not to be turning the ball over, regardless of what time of the side of the field, because they're just not getting an acceptable return when they don't, when they're trying for big plays.
Yeah, I thought it was just an odd sort of small sample size type deal, but a couple of those have been pretty crucial. I mean, against Philadelphia, there's an interception in the end zone to Justin Watson, and then Kelsey fumbles at the 8-yard line. I mean, that's 14 points in a game that they lost by 3. That's pretty crucial. That's those are killers. In Denver, you've got the MVS fumble, the Patrick Mahomes fumble, the Patrick Mahomes interception, that took place there. That a couple of those on the Denver side. So maybe that game is different if you don't have those first down plays. And of course, on Sunday, it was a first down throw to Sky Moore that ended up being intercepted. And I know that Patrick Mahomes talked about that, maybe it should have been a back shoulder throw. Sky Moore, I think, was expecting back shoulder. Maybe that's why he slowed his route down. My bigger thing is I think everybody else was on the page of this is a run play and an RPO and this is a handoff, because when Mahomes threw the ball, Creed Humphrey was 2 yards down the field and Trey Smith was sprinting towards a linebacker, and Kadarius Toney was blocking a linebacker as well when Mahomes threw the ball. I think 8 of 11 players were thinking run, and Mahomes, Rice, and Sky Moore were thinking pass. And by the way, if he hands it to Isaiah Pacheco, there's a wide gap in the middle there with Trey Smith running to a linebacker to the next level. Could have been a big gainer. It wasn't. My bigger issue is maybe if that's an RPO, just give it to the guy who's been the star that day instead of trying to force it to Sky Moore.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think generally Mahomes has done a pretty good job of decision-making in those situations. So, you're not going to hammer him for making an error there.
Agreed.
But I still don't get why this late in the season and for guys in the second year now, why he and Mahomes and Sky Moore aren't on the same page there. And I do feel like that is why Sky Moore kind of did that little stutter step, I think he was expecting a back shoulder throw, and he was going to stop that route, and then he saw the ball in the air, and by the time he got started again, it was too late. So, that's the kind of stuff, particularly on first down, man. It's tough. If that's 3rd and 10 or whatever, you'll take that. But on first down in a game like that, you can't have it.
Yeah. Visiting with Adam Teicher from ESPN, our guest. He is presented by Twin Peaks. Would you have interest? It has been reported that the Chiefs have interest in Zach Ertz. Would you have interest in Zach Ertz if you're the Chiefs to come in the final 5 weeks and then the playoff push?
Yeah, my question is he better than Noah Gray? I mean, can he do things at this point of his career that Noah Gray can't do? Hey, the Zach Ertz of his prime, oh, absolutely. But what a 1-2 punch that'd be, huh? But now, I don't know. Clearly he's lost something, and he's not what he used to be, and I just don't know that that's going to be any kind of solution for the Chiefs. If it means that Noah Gray's not playing, do you really want that? Maybe the Chiefs would be more comfortable going to 3 tight end stuff, maybe. I don't know, but I like Noah Gray, and I think he's maybe more of a solution at this point than Zach Ertz is, but hey, it may not hurt to try because they need something here.
See, my question would be, and point would be of interest in Zach Ertz is he's better than Blake Bell. And I know Blake Bell only played 9 snaps, but if he's better than Blake Bell, if he has to take Noah Gray's spot, is Noah Gray better than Blake Bell? Like if you've got your 13 personnel with Kelsey, Gray, and Zach Ertz as opposed to Kelsey, Gray, and Bell, Blake Bell running a route is a waste. It's a guy running out there just to cause a distraction to a degree. Zach Ertz in that spot, I think you can have more 13 personnel. If you have more 13 personnel, well, that kind of goes into what this team is starting to become, which is a running team, first and foremost, of maybe more power, more Isaiah Pacheco, and then if you've got 13 personnel, you've got 3 actual receiving tight ends that can offer a threat, and you can throw out of that as well. That would be my reason for interest in Zach Ertz is I wonder what their plan would be and what they would look like if Jody Fortson were healthy. And that sort of feels like the Zach Ertz would kind of fill some sort of what the 13 personnel could be with a healthy Jody Fortson.
Yeah, well, you're assuming Zach Ertz can still do the things he did earlier in his career, which I don't know. I mean,
I don't know either.
I'm just wondering what they're getting if they sign him, But, hey, but he wouldn't have to play a ton of plays.
Exactly,
If he gets 10 or 12 snaps a game, maybe that would be enough if he still got a little something. So I don't know. I'd just be wary of bringing him in and thinking you're going to get the 2017 Zach Ertz or something like that because that's not happening.
No, you're going to get a discounted Zach Ertz, and you're going to pay a discounted rate for a discounted player. The other 3 teams that Adam Schefter said are reported to have interest in Zach Ertz, the Buffalo Bills because of Dawson Knox, but Dalton Kincaid's been pretty good. The Philadelphia Eagles because of Dallas Goedert, and, of course, the Baltimore Ravens because of Mark Andrews. But just yesterday, John Harbaugh said they are not interested in Zach Ertz. Said, we are fine with our tight ends moving forward. That is not somebody we're going to be pursuing. That would eliminate them. So it might be just 3 teams vying for the services of Zach Ertz, according to Adam Schefter, at least, if those are the 4 teams that are the immediate ones showing interest, and if those are the teams that Zach Ertz would also have mutual interest in wanting to win another ring before he is done playing. Might make more sense just for the reunion in Philadelphia there with him and helping out, because after Dallas Goedert, they don't have much there in Philly as a tight end, where they have a couple of other players there in Baltimore a little bit, and of course Buffalo has Dalton Kincaid, and the Chiefs have Travis Kelce. So the Eagles might be the most vulnerable and the ones that may want him back, and maybe for the emotional part of it. But I'll be honest, I'd be interested in Zach Ertz if the Chiefs want to kick those tires, and depending on what it costs, and it's going to be prorated the last 5 weeks of the season, whatever that cost is. I'd be interested what he could do, how often he could play, limited reps, whatever. But then the playoff run, if he could be up to speed to a degree, and you would have 3 receiving tight ends that can offer you a threat when you're also pounding the rock with Isaiah Pacheco. I'd certainly be interested in what that might look like for the Chiefs.
Well, no, and you make a good point. You kind of sold me a little bit here.
Oh,
I mean,
sweet.
So let's do it. Let's go get him. But hey, I do think it's worth a shot. I just would be a little bit wary of expectations.
Right, I agree with that. Yeah, if people are saying yes, they got Zach Ertz now, well, just Zach Ertz fill the Blake Bell role. Just do it a little bit better. There you go. That's all I'm looking at. Does he make you incrementally better the rest of the way? I think he does, but we'll find out if they even go that route. What do you make of this Buffalo Bills game, this matchup? And boy, we talk about a lot, Adam. The more desperate team in the NFL is more likely the side that could end up winning the game. I know the Bills are playing like wounded animals right now and playing a playoff game almost every week. But this also feels like it's going to be a desperate sort of performance for the Chiefs against the Bills on Sunday.
Yeah, the Chiefs are really close to. Hey, if Russell Wilson had thrown a pass about 3 inches higher in the end zone, and that last interception against Houston, Broncos are only a game behind the Chiefs in the standings. So the Chiefs. My point is, Chiefs have some work to do themselves. I mean, there should be a sense of urgency. I can't tell you there will be, but there should be a sense of urgency for them right now. And they've been pretty good at rebounding after losses. So I feel like they'll be ready to go on Sunday. But I don't know if necessarily the Bills will have any advantage in that regard. But and I know the Bills' record isn't great. I mean, 6-6, and they're not what they've been the last few years. Not as good of a record, not as good of a team, but there's still plenty of good players over there. So a lot for the Chiefs to worry about. And if they're not somewhat close, if the Chiefs aren't somewhat close to their A game, this game's going to be a problem for them on Sunday.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that because I think the Bills are going to – and the Bills are still really talented. Still a talented team. They still have Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. James Cook is good. Dalton Kincaid's a nice player. I don't know if Von Miller is going to make the trip or not. We'll see. He hasn't been formally charged yet, so that means I think by rule he can't go on the commissioner's exempt list with what's going on down in Texas with him. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Do you have a score in mind, Adam, for the Chiefs and Bills on Sunday?
Yeah. Actually, I didn't. I'll have to make one up here. I'll take the Chiefs, maybe like 23-17, something like that. Not a real high-scoring game, but I feel like the Chiefs are better defensively than what we've seen certainly last week in Green Bay. But I don't know. I mean, the Bills still have a lot to worry about and a great quarterback. So maybe the Bills will put up a little more than that in terms of points.
Yeah, we'll find out. Adam Teicher from ESPN joining us here on Sports Radio 810 on this Tuesday. Adam, great stuff as always. I really appreciate the time. Enjoy the football. We'll be reading and the coverage and everything, and we will talk next Tuesday.
Okay, good stuff, Jason. We'll talk to you then.
Absolutely. There's Adam Teicher from ESPN Chiefs Insider joining us. He's presented by Twin Peaks. Step up your lunch game at Twin Peaks. Enjoy light yet hearty combos put together for you. Available at an awesome price, featuring savory soups, crisp salads, and a variety of sandwiches to satisfy your every craving. Enjoy your next lunch break with Twin Peaks. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thank you to Adam Teicher joining us as always, as he joins us here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We appreciate him here in the zone with us, and we'll see what happens with the Chiefs and Bills coming up on Sunday in a look, it's a big game. It's a desperate game, and we'll see which team is more desperate than the other to find a way to win the game on Sunday. Chiefs at this point are 2.5-point favorites. So before the Chiefs and Packers game, they were 3.5-point favorites. Dropped to 3, now down to 2.5 for this game coming up on Sunday. 913-912-4810. As I was rewatching the game, and tons of other stuff I want to talk about that we will this week, you and I have held the frustration of throughout the season how they've used Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
Or how often they've used. How about that? Just even using him at all. And then, you had the great stat about the average yards of depth per target for Rashee Rice being 1 yard past the line of scrimmage.
Not even of receptions, of targeting.
Just targets, 1 yard past the line of scrimmage, the average for Rashee Rice. And this comes after a game in which he had the great, back shoulder throw. He had the shallow crosses. He was just used in a way that it was like almost like, hey, this is a number one wide receiver out there.
There were contested created catch opportunities, and then 2 or 3 impactful, real wide receiver plays.
How many plays do you remember this year of Rashee Rice just simply having to go up and get the ball to make a play? Even if it's not a 50-50. The back shoulder against the Raiders.
Yep. And that's not a jump ball.
No, that's a specific play they practiced and they talked about after the game.
Right.
That they had worked on that with Rashee Rice, that back shoulder throw. I'm talking about the course, the progression, and you've got one-on-one. I'm talking about Jordan Love, second down, and throwing a one-on-one with Joshua Williams and Christian Watson and throwing it high and saying, let's see if my guy goes and makes a play because I got pressure in my face. Not, I'm going to now try to run around or make a play or whatever. I'm just going to say, I'm going to give my guy a shot. I'm going to throw it high. Hopefully he goes and gets it. Josh Williams was an inch and a half away from tipping that ball. He played it fine. Could somebody else have played it better? I don't know. I watched that, and that was a phenomenal throw and a great catch by Christian Watson. Has Rashee Rice even had an opportunity to do that this year, 12 games in, when one of the things we talked about when they drafted him was his contested catch rate in college? Like, he was a jump ball contested catch specialist at SMU, that he just had a rare ability to come down with the football in traffic when he's having to jump up and beat somebody else for the football. And it's 0 for 0 in targets and chances, and he wasn't even in on the Hail Mary at the end of the game.
That's a tough one.
He's on the sideline holding his helmet, watching the Chiefs run a Hail Mary with Justin Watson, Travis Kelce, MVS, Kadarius Toney, and Sky Moore.
Not a Hail Mary. Not from your own 30. You're going to need a lot of fast guys to be able to burst around.
The guy who's, 6'1" and has the highest vertical on your team is on the sideline watching Sky Moore run to the end zone. And Kadarius Toney, who's there to be a guy who can shake defenders, but not a guy there to go and win jump balls.
But Sky Moore did have great culture when he was running down the field there. Unlike George Pickens.
He knew That's a great
His
point.
football character on that Hail Mary.
And also, Sky Moore knew exactly where he was supposed to be on that particular Hail Mary. That's why he plays the most snaps of wide receivers on the team. He knew exactly where he was supposed to be, just running down to the end zone. Thank goodness you had Justin Watson, Travis Kelce, and Kadarius Toney, the three players there for the jump ball in the end zone for the Hail Mary. I would hate to see Rashee Rice on the field for a Hail Mary.
We would have a really serious, fair point about, hey, the Chiefs' offense that does not have a redundant character to Rashee Rice, right? Like, this is not a team that has an incumbent jump ball guy who Rice hasn't been able to get past. It's just a skill set that they have not really had for a very long time, and frankly, not a skill set they've valued. Who's the best Chiefs jump ball receiver of this modern era? I have an answer, but I want to give you a chance to come up with one.
Josh Gordon?
I would say, dead honest, it's Tyreek Hill.
Okay. You know what? You're right. Because
I'm right, but you understand that I'm not. I mean, that I shouldn't be.
Tyreek Hill has an incredibly rare ability to track the football.
Incredibly. But that's not why they drafted him.
Right.
Tracking the ball and a vertical and just an ability to sometimes to way out jump his height and to out leverage his height. I mean, he maximizes all of that. But that's the best jump ball receiver the Chiefs have had with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And it's just not something that they seem to really value. I'm sure there are some outliers going back to the Eagles days, but like the real the icons of that time, I think about Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin and some of those guys that are, well, that's not really what they did either. I don't know if the Chiefs value that or not, but even if it's not a part of your offense, like that's a whole I am teasing an hour that we could talk, right? Exactly. Teasing an hour-long conversation about the Chiefs' offense.
That's so true.
But if it's a Hail Mary,
what the hell are you doing?
What the hell else do you want? It's going to be a jump ball.
I mean, the guy was built to be in the game on a Hail Mary.
If he can't play then.
Was he tired?
I'm very confused.
He couldn't jog down to the end zone. You know, Kelce played every snap there. He was able to jog down to the end zone and get tossed aside, in a very obvious pass interference, which is written in the rule book. Hail Mary, there are no pass interference.
Did you hear John Perry's explanation on the pregame?
No.
I don't know if you saw Monday Night Football. Oh my gosh.
No, I didn't hear it. What did he say?
Basically, he says that as long as you're not pulling someone down on the Hail Mary, they are taught that you can do whatever you want. He even said a light push in the back is not a pass interference.
Here's the thing then.
So DBs.
All right. Yeah. No. I got your Hail Mary play. I got Rashee Rice. I got Travis Kelce. I got Blake Bell. I got Justin Watson on the left side, and I got one-on-one on the right side with maybe MVS.
Sure.
And I run them all to the end zone. And then Mahomes throws the ball, and I've got Blake Bell and Justin Watson to just knock defensive backs out of the way and then leave Rashee. Why can't the offensive players knock defensive backs out of the way? You're not pulling, you're just pushing. So Blake Bell is down there as a fullback just to get rid of the chum that's there, and then you've got a leaper like Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce to go up and make the play on a shorter defensive back. Blake Bell, your job, and Justin Watson, your job, are to take the tallest players and get them out of there.
Even an aggressive box out, just so it looks like you're not doing it on purpose.
No.
Or just do it on purpose.
Why does the offense always turn around and look at the ball when the defensive players are just pushing them around?
One flaw in your plan.
What's that?
You cannot have Rashee Rice on the field for a Hail Mary.
Sorry, Sky Moore, jump for it.
Perfect.
tumbling down, pledging running their love to the ground.
Way out west, there was this fella I want to tell you about. Fella by the name of
Todd Lebo.
At least that was the handle his loving parents gave him. But he never had much use for it himself. This
Lebo.
He called himself
Lebo.
Sometimes there's a man. Well, he's the man for his time and place. He fits right in there. And that's
Todd Liabo.
Kansas City.
I hate Lebo.
La 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 la
Here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels, Todd Lebo here with us for the hour. We got some Fact or Fiction coming up in the next segment. Todd, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Boys. Doing
are you?
Great.
You gonna make the bowl game?
The sun is out.
You gonna go down to the bowl game?
No, I don't go to bowl games
Yeah,
anymore.
I know. You think they're stupid.
No, they're not stupid.
You hate bowl games. If your team's not in the playoff, there's no reason for you to watch the games.
The last time I went to a bowl game was the 2003 season, 2004 January. It was the national championship game.
Yeah, so
I guess they called that the BCS.
See what he just said? The last bowl game I went to for my team was the national championship
It's not
game.
like they haven't played for that since then, but I haven't gone to those either. So my experience was fine. It was good, okay? I got tickets, worked it out, you know, how we do in the radio game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was in New Orleans, and they were playing LSU before LSU was LSU. This is Nick Saban's LSU. And there were 75% LSU people because they just lived there.
I would guess that would be the breakdown.
We didn't have a hotel room. We flew down the day of the game, and the plan was to fly out at 6 a.m. the next morning. So we'll just stay up. Win, lose, whatever, we'll just stay up. We thought Bourbon Street would be rocking and all that stuff, whatever.
Right.
So they lose the game 21-14. Is what it is. The LSU fans just went home and went to work because they lived there. There was no nothing. It was, it was whatever. So now we're not happy. We're on Bourbon Street. We go get some meal at like 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, I'm going to eat some Cajun food or something. I ordered
crawfish etouffee.
I ordered, shrimp something or other on rice, knowing that I don't have a hotel room, nothing like that. And I didn't understand that the shrimp they threw on the plate were going to need to be, they had eyes and legs and everything. So I had to, with my hands, break these shrimp open, angry about the game, the meal, all the stuff. And then by about 1 o'clock, we're like, we're going to the airport. So we go to the airport. And I slept on the floor of the airport. So there you go. That was my last. I'm not going back to any bowl games.
Yeah, but you know what? Alamo Bowl's nice.
Yeah, it is good. They played that a couple years ago.
Yeah. It's a great matchup between a Big 12 and an SEC team.
You pumped for the Big 12 matchup of Oklahoma and Arizona.
Arizona's a sneaky good team, too, by the way. This is not some
passing of the torch here.
Well, that is a great point of realignment. Has a Big 12 and SEC matchup in the Alamo Bowl with the team in the Big 12 right now not even representing what would be the SEC part or the Big 12 part of the Big 12
and
SEC.
What is the Pac-12 next year?
Washington State and Oregon State.
There are lawsuits to come, right? There's things. Who knows?
Are they keeping the name while playing? Because they worked out a deal. They're playing 5 games against the Mountain West and 5 games against against other Power 5 teams.
Right.
So they've got 10 games that they've worked out, Washington State and Oregon State. But do they keep the Pac-12?
I think they own the name.
Do they then name one of those teams the champion and they go to the playoff?
Is there a commissioner for 2 schools?
That's a great question.
All Kliavkoff could actually handle, maybe. So
he can handle that one?
Maybe.
But if they keep the name, do they get the automatic bid into the playoff?
There's lots of things to talk about.
I'd like Missouri to join the Pac-12.
Here's the thing: they should. All of the little rulings so far. Yeah, all the little rulings so far. Like, no, they are the Pac-12, even though you all left. If that feels good, just from sort of a justice standpoint.
Yeah.
But I maybe someday again I'll go to a bowl game. I don't know. I've been to a few. I did go to the Rose Bowl when Oklahoma was in the Rose Bowl.
Just for the experience.
Just for the experience. It was amazing. It was beautiful and outstanding. And
so much of the bowl game is opponent and location.
But the problem I have with the bowl game now, honestly, is that like in 2002 when I went to the Rose Bowl, they all played. No one said, "Well, I'm opting out" or "I'm transferring" or whatever. I got to see that was the last game that Mike Price coached for Washington State. He'd already taken the Bama job.
How'd that work out for him?
He was going to coach that game, and then so Oklahoma won, and then he took the Bama job, and then he lost the job before they had a game.
Before they had a game, yeah.
And then he went to UTEP or whatever. But and I went to that. I went to some other game, didn't I? Oh, I went to the national championship.
I've
game
never been to a Mizzou
2000.
bowl game.
I went to the Florida State Oklahoma game in 2000. I've been to like 3 bowl games.
I've been to the Sugar Bowl, but I've never been to a Mizzou.
Who was playing?
It was Louisville, Florida, back when Teddy Bridgewater was there, and they beat that Florida
team. Yeah,
not Jacoby Brissett. Who was the white quarterback? Driscoll. It was Florida's Jeff Driscoll and Teddy Bridgewater in the Sugar Bowl. Went there, and you know what? Bourbon Street was amazing after the game.
Yeah,
like it was awesome.
It was fun.
It was
that
crazy
might have
packed.
actually been a New Year's Eve game. Wasn't
It absolutely was a New Year's Eve. That was my wife and I's first ever New Year's Eve kiss.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were on Bourbon Street, so my wife went down there with me, and so I go cover the game, go meet her. She ended up getting tickets somehow and to go to the game, but whatever. I don't know if she was rooting for Florida or not, because the whole Louisville thing. But
right.
But anyway, so we're on Bourbon Street, we're walking, and it gets closer to the time, the countdown. So we're walking, and we start hearing people like 10, 9. Mm-hmm. So we stop, we start counting. We have our first ever New Year's kiss. We look up just to our right, where the windows are right there. Larry Flint Hustler Club.
Yeah, it's right there. Beautiful.
As most people have the story that, where was your first New Year's kiss with your now wife? Right in front of the Larry Flint Hustler Club in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Why? Where was yours?
Yeah.
It is kind of messed up that you actually been married for 4 years. It was just the first time she agreed to kiss you on New Year's.
She'd never been awake
That's exactly
that
right. She's always falling asleep. Yeah. I was kissed her. It was weird. It was odd. It was,
Sleeping Beauty situation. We don't want to revisit
exactly
it.
right.
It's bad.
But
she then turned into a frog.
I'd go to a bowl
Or you
game
did.
again sometime, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is different now because
yeah, you're right.
it's very exciting. Missouri sold all their tickets.
Yeah.
Ohio State has about 12 people in the portal now. I don't know who they're going to play.
No idea.
They I think the last time Oklahoma was in the Alamo Bowl was 2 years ago. I think. And that's when Bob Stoops coached the game with Caleb Williams as his quarterback.
That's right.
And I can't remember the name of the guy who coached Oregon. Because Dan Lanning
wasn't
had
Dan
taken the
Lanning.
job and Brent Venables had taken the job. But they had a game, and Caleb Williams, who was leaving, hadn't officially left yet, but played in the game because it was just so weird.
I love San Antonio for an event.
That's fun, yeah.
And so that would be one, like if Mizzou's in the Alamo Bowl or something like that in the future, whatever it might be. I don't even know what the bowl contracts are with the Alamo Bowl.
Well, the tie-in for that is currently Pac-12, which is the Big Ten
Big
team,
12.
and the Big 12.
Yeah.
Oklahoma this is the second time they ever played in it. They were always in different bowls.
Yeah.
But so it is a fun place, and it'll be cool. I'll watch the game.
Did you read the athletic story about the ACC and why it took the ACC?
I didn't understand why. I have not read that. What was the reason?
Oh, my. Dude, and why their last bowl game wasn't filled until like 9 o'clock at night.
It's embarrassing.
And it all was centered on Florida State. It was all about Florida State not making the college football
then they had
playoff.
to figure it all out.
Because Louisville was supposed to go to the Orange Bowl, and then bing, 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 and somehow, Notre Dame ends up going to the Sun Bowl, but the Sun Bowl didn't even have a Notre Dame helmet there because they weren't told Notre Dame was even a possibility.
Even a chance.
Even a chance. And the part of the story, like it's so convoluted as to all these things because you got contracts, and if this happens, then a contract change from this.
Notre Dame is the problem in that contract. Basically,
that's you're not wrong about that. But like a bowl game changes from an SEC bowl to a Big Ten bowl if a certain thing happens with a ranking in the top 20, like all of these convoluted rules. But how they ended up getting Notre Dame. Here we go. So Olivas, the guy who runs the Sun Bowl, said that they had already locked in Oregon State from the Pac-12 side. Said, we were shocked. In our weekly meetings with our football committee and our board of directors, Notre Dame never came up. We had no idea what happened above us for us to get Notre Dame. And this is now the story. It says, unsurprisingly, all three bowls submitted, the Mayo Bowl, the Sun Bowl, the Pinstripe Bowl, all submitted for Notre Dame. All three bowls submitted the Irish as their top choice. Per the ACC league rules, they followed the prescribed process, leading to the ACC attorney writing each bowl's name on a piece of paper and drawing it out of a hat.
Wow.
That is an actual thing.
It sounds like a Big 12 tiebreaker.
That is an actual thing, is how Notre Dame ended up in the Sun Bowl and not the Duke's Mayo or the Pinstripe Bowl. Notre Dame went, and they didn't have a choice. Notre Dame went to the Sun Bowl because the ACC lawyer wrote the 3 bowl games down on a piece of paper, put it in a hat, and drew out Sun Bowl. And the Sun Bowl didn't even know that they were a possibility. They didn't even have a helmet for Notre Dame there. So they're celebrating with Tony the Tiger in the background and no Notre Dame,
It's such a serious system. It's so real.
The game did sell out in like 5 minutes, though.
Yeah.
So once they announced the matchup.
Yeah, could you please stop saying the Sun Bowl? Because that's not the name.
I know.
The name is Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that's why I said Tony the Tiger was there, and Oregon State, logos and stuff like that. But there were beavers there. There was a tiger and a beaver, but nobody was Irish.
Leprechauns.
There were no
Not
leprechauns.
a leprechaun.
Not an Irish person anywhere within 10 miles.
I'll still call that the Sun Bowl because it was the Sun Bowl before. Some of the bowls have never had a name. They've always been a sponsor.
Right.
So
that's true.
The newer bowls, they've just always. It's kind of like, in Pittsburgh, Heinz Field was Heinz Field, and that was his sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's some other name, but you can't just call it like Arrowhead,
right,
and not say the name. What do you call the thing? If it's always had a name, you can't call it Heinz now. So you just call it it's the other 3 rivers because there are still the 3 rivers.
I call it Heinz Field.
Yeah,
I didn't even know they had a new sponsor. To be honest with you,
they do. It's some sort of.
It's Acrisure.
It's a bank thanky, something like that.
I mean, Jacobs Field forever. I still find myself calling it Jacobs Field instead of what, Progressive?
Now, Jacobs was named after a person.
Yeah,
I
right.
get that.
It wasn't.
But,
but
Heinz,
you're talking about a sponsor specifically
Heinz
and staying with it.
is a big Pittsburgh family, but they paid for that.
Yeah.
It's like like the Carrier Dome. That was
right. That was
the air conditioning company made it. It has no air conditioning.
Right. That's
and
I still love that.
and it's something else now.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there are plenty of bowls that just got made as a name.
Yeah.
And so you don't have a choice.
Is
the game that happens the second game in Orlando? Let's call it that one because there's like 3, right?
Yeah. I think is the Pop-Tarts Bowl one of those that has always had a sponsor since the beginning?
It could be because I think that's the second. There's like 3 in Orlando. I think it was Cheez-It, and then or before that it was something.
Yeah, well, it was
2 Cheez-It Bowls last year.
I've always known it for like 15 years. It was the Champs Sports Bowl.
Champs Sports, and then I think it was Camping World.
Camping World.
Cheez-It.
That's right, the Camping World.
And there may be another game in Orlando even before that.
Yeah.
That stadium gets a lot of work.
But I want to know what it's going to be next year because Kellogg's is the sponsor for it, not Pop-Tarts. Kellogg's. That's why it was Cheez-Its last year.
It's also
around,
Tony the Tiger. We joked about the Frosted Flakes Bowl. Tony the Tiger is also a Kellogg's thing.
Go there.
They keep branching.
Right, but he's already out in the sun. He likes the sun.
Absolutely.
Orlando has sun too.
Sure they
do. It's like the Keebler Elves Bowl. Like, come on, man.
The Keebler Elves Bowl.
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
There's like 3 food companies. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I just threw a dart. Like odds are, maybe they're Nabisco. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I'm not really sure. Did the
Keebler might be their own company?
Did the committee get it right?
No, you never get it right. There's no way to get it right. What's right?
Yeah, everybody's in agreement though. This was one that there was no controversy whatsoever. It was very easygoing. Everybody online.
Here's your unanswerable question.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia wins. Who's in the playoff?
Hey guys, sorry, that's a really great question, but the cookie and cracker lines were separated when Kellogg sold the cookie line and the rights of the Keebler name in 2019. The cracker lines are now marketed under the Kellogg's or Sunshine names.
Sunshine, that's the Triscuit people.
Yeah.
So the cookies are there, they stand alone?
Well, the Keebler company was acquired by the Kellogg company in 2001.
Holy alliteration.
Yeah, so that was 2001, but then Kellogg sold Keebler cookies and other related brands in 2019
to
for
an international concern
to Ferrero SPA.
There we go.
For 1.3 billion.
That's an international concern.
Ferrero is that the Ferrero Rocher company?
I don't know. Who knows? It's a lot.
Your question, my guess.
Ferrero is Ferrero Rocher and Nutella. How about that?
Oh,
Nutella.
International.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. I would guess it'd be Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Texas.
You think they'd put Texas in before too? I don't know.
Yeah.
Then I think
I think the performance against Louisville the night before may have sealed the fate of Florida State.
But doesn't Texas' big win over Alabama look like less if they've got
look
2
as
losses?
good because now it's a 2-loss team for that Texas.
I think it's possible that Florida State gets in over Texas, but it's unanswerable.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
If they're not saying, well, now Alabama's number 4 and Texas just beat number 4, or they can say, well, Texas is number 3 And Alabama's only loss is to number 3 team. Yeah, but what's Florida State's only loss? Shut up.
Well, none.
Doesn't matter.
Unimportant.
Does not matter.
Not important.
Why are you bringing up old stuff?
None of that even matters.
I tweeted out right after it was released of people that were like, how are they not in? Put them in, blah, blah, blah. They should be even at number 4. Well, once Texas popped up, they were out. Florida State was out once Texas popped up. And I'm glad that Curtis did the poll and put that out there because I tweeted out almost the same sort of thought process behind it. And my tweet was, you can't feel Florida State should be in the tournament, in the playoff at number 4, and be okay with Texas at number 3. Because if you're okay in saying Florida State should be number 4, then you are in agreement with the committee that you're okay with a one-loss conference champion being ranked ahead of an undefeated conference champion.
Right.
So once you agree with that, now you're just splitting hairs as to who the better one-loss team is over an undefeated
it's all
team.
Splitting hairs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you're saying they should be number 4, well, then you're doing the same thing the committee did. You're just thinking them over Alabama or Georgia, where the committee said, no, Texas is number 3. And once Texas popped up there, I'm like, well, then they have no problem putting a one-loss team ahead of Florida State.
The wild thing is I still think on a neutral site, whatever the Vegas line would be with the players show up, I think Georgia might be favored against every team in it. I mean, they seriously might be.
Yeah. What's Florida State's 14-point dogs to Georgia?
Yeah.
So that's what it would have been if Georgia was number 1 and Florida State was number 4.
Yeah.
If Georgia won and they put in Florida State at number 4, you'd be looking at 2 touchdown dogs.
Yeah. I think Georgia would probably be favored over Michigan. I think Georgia would be favored over Washington. I mean, it's just it's hard. It's a hard job. Mm-hmm. And it was no good with the computers because they changed the computer program every year almost.
Yeah, we're going to tweak it this way, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah, they would say, all right, we're using these 7 computers, but we have to throw out your best and your worst. And then they would -1 for a loss. I mean, the BCS formula changed nearly yearly, and they put the K-State rule in when they did the selections that if you're in the top 3, you can't get kicked all the way down to the Alamo Bowl and play Purdue, right? So they always had all these little funky things to figure it out. And I do think the committee can be better than those computers. And I haven't even looked to see, because those computer programs still exist. Those guys still do them. They still run them. That's how UNLV, I think, made their conference championship game. It was a conglomeration of the BCS. It's still the Coley Matrix. It's still the Anderson Heister. I mean, Jeff Sager. I think those polls still exist. So I don't know. I'm sure Georgia's in the top 4 in one of those polls. You know what I mean?
The composite ratings for college football, that's the S&P, the FBI, the FPI, the FEI, the Beta Rank, the K4, the Edge, the composite.
Those are even new ones.
Yeah. The composite ranking has Florida State at number 10.
Where's Georgia?
Georgia is number 4.
There you go.
Michigan, Oregon, even after losing twice to Washington. Michigan, Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, Penn State, Texas, Alabama, LSU, Notre Dame, Florida State, Oklahoma,
so here's the deal.
Washington, Missouri.
I'll take exception.
Kansas State, number 14.
I'll take any exception with anyone having Penn State that high. That team stinks.
Agreed.
So I would rather have people look at this thing and kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
They were in a well, it's not impossible. They had to come up with something, but they weren't going to make the world happy this way. Sometimes it worked out to where it's all just fine.
Because if Florida State's in, the SEC champion is not in the college football playoff. How could that possibly be? Can there be a playoff without the SEC champion?
The SEC
Apparently not.
was, in my opinion, down a little bit this year. I mean, they just were.
I don't disagree.
You know what I mean? I mean, this Georgia team is not as good as last year's Georgia team. No question.
And that shot at Missouri. Look at that. Just taking a direct shot.
Well, but they're not.
I know.
They're not. Missouri is way better than they were last year.
And Missouri damn near beat them last year.
They did. And Georgia's not as good. I know Alabama's maybe,
Yeah.
But there's plenty of teams that aren't as good. I mean, Kentucky was down. Tennessee's clearly not as good as they were last year. I mean, LSU's kind of about the same. A&M fired their coach. Arkansas should have. I mean, there's lots of stuff there. And they had the data we have was when they played against other leagues, they lost.
Their best win was Louisville. I think the best non-conference win for the SEC in terms of the final college football playoff ranking.
LSU lost to Florida State. I mean, Alabama lost to Texas. I mean, there are plenty of these losses around for the other leagues. So it's just a hard thing to do. And there will be fights next year about who's number 13 and number 12 are. I don't care.
I don't care about that as much as because I don't care about the fights between 68, 69, and 70.
No, now
don't care at
they
all.
care about them on TV for 2 hours when they put the brackets out.
Yeah.
That's when I turn it off because I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care about that.
The immediate, like, I don't want the immediate reaction of, look, I love Dick Vitale. I know people, have issues with him, whatever. I love college basketball, and that man loves college basketball as much as anybody else, and he's incredibly passionate about college basketball. I am a Dick Vitale fan. One thing that I don't care about Dick Vitale is right after the tournament comes out, and he goes, "Oh, the fact that St. Joe's is not, what a travesty. St. Joe's won this game and that game, and the fact that they're not in, I don't know." I don't care. Don't care. St. Joe's win more games. You know, I want to talk about the fact that this 2 seed is a 4 seed, and now they just screwed the 3 seed.
Yeah.
The 3 seed. They just screwed the 1 seed or whatever, because that should have been a 2 seed or whatever. That's what I care about. Is that's the path to actually winning. Is what's going to be a national champion. And I know people talk about VCU. Well, VCU was a play-in and they made it. They didn't win the national championship. No. Okay, they made it to the Final Four, but the national champion was not the 68th, 69th, 70th team. The 5th team could be a national champion. By the way, maybe not Florida State this year, but
the 11th seed is not the 68th team; it's the 40-something.
You're right.
You're
right about that. Exactly.
They're
with
not
the 16,
the second place team in the Sun Belt to be
16 automatic qualifying tournaments or regular season, depending on that. But if Florida State had a quarterback and they were number 5, or let's say Florida State got in at number 4 and Alabama was number 5, and be like, well, in the college football playoff right now, the first team out could win a national championship. The 69 team in the NCAA tournament's not winning a national championship.
No.
But Alabama, or if it was Texas, or if it was Georgia, could absolutely win the national championship this year. Or Oregon could win the national championship.
My fear about the 12-team playoff that we could see this happening. It'll probably happen every year in some way. If you have your I don't know what's going to happen with the Pac-12 and the 2 teams, but you have if you win your bowl game, you're a champion. But let's say this year, your
conference or your bowl game.
Yeah, your championship game.
Yeah.
All right, so. Let's say Michigan and Ohio State are playing on November whatever, and they know one of them is going to be in the championship game the next week, but then the other one's they're still going to be in the
top 12.
In the top 12, and they're going to play a game. Would you rather maybe not play another game, or would you rather play that and win that and then have a bye? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So that's the little math that will happen in people's heads on what you'll play.
It also makes it, even that it extends the interest level. To me, it doesn't water down the regular season because, for instance, Friday, Missouri playing Arkansas,
big deal.
Is to get to 10 wins. That's awesome. Next year, in the same exact situation, Missouri playing Arkansas is to make the playoffs.
Same thing with Oklahoma played TCU on that Friday.
Yeah.
Big game for Oklahoma. They need to win that game. They'd probably be in the 12-team playoff.
Make the playoffs if you win that game.
If you win that game. So I think it will enhance that part of it.
Yeah.
It may water down the game, the late season rivalry games that may lead to playing each other, the next week.
Right.
But I think it's worth the fight for the 12, the 10 and 9-2 team trying to get to 10-2
because it
enhance whatever,
and it creates another level of college football that in college basketball you've got smaller schools. You win your tournament, you make the tournament. You win your conference, you make the tournament. That's your championship, right? Yeah. You get to go dancing. You're a 16 seed. Who cares? You're not winning a national championship. You've already done that. You won your conference tournament. That's your sort of national championship. You get to go and be a part of the big dance. So you've got that forever, right? And then you've got the Final Four. I've heard that schools have Final Fours. I've been told that
it's
before.
Actually, a ton of them do.
Yeah.
Jason.
And you've got
does Missouri not?
Shut up. And you've got reunions. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You've got banners that are there for the Final Four. Not winning a national championship, a banner for just simply winning your region.
Oh, they may take them down sometimes, but
that's fine. Leave them up. Who cares? But for college football, you've never really had that for, you won the Alamo Bowl.
Yeah.
Or you make the playoff. Now it's 10-year reunion to the playoff team. Missouri made the playoff. It's 10 years later. This Missouri, welcome back, the first ever team to make the playoff. Kansas State, you're in Manhattan. 15-year anniversary of Avery Johnson. Welcome in Avery Johnson, everybody. Quarterback of the first ever playoff team for Kansas State. There's the banner, 2024 playoffs. That's another element other than, you went to a bowl game. That was cool. It was a fun experience for the fans. No, that's something you can remember and have that team go down in history with your school that college football's never had before.
Right. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Except for Big Ten Pac-12 Rose Bowl. Like in the history, you won the Rose Bowl. There you go. 10-year anniversary of this Washington State team that won the Rose Bowl. Yeah. That historically from that standpoint.
The way the thing's supposed to work next year is the 6 highest rated conference champions. Now, that's the big question is, what is the Pac-12? Are they a conference champion? Will they get a spot
Okay,
in there.
or is the Mountain West Conference champion going to be rated higher
It
than
could be
Ohio?
because of the schedule, right? So like this year,
they'll have chances to play them.
It would have been the 5 teams, and then I guess Liberty would be the team that is a conference champion. So that allows a path for the non-Power 5s or whatever we're going to call it next year, Power 4. I don't know what we'll call it. So there could be 2 of them in there. And maybe I'm not excited about Liberty going to play at the 5 seed, but you know what? Now Liberty has a chance to go win a game.
Yeah,
they get a chance to be the 13 seed who beats a 4 or whatever. You know what I mean? In the NCAA tournament, they can do it.
I'm a Power 5 elitist.
Sure you are.
So I mean, if the smaller schools aren't in, whatever.
But
I'm just thankful that Missouri has Ohio State and not Tulane or
well, that's the thing. Like,
Liberty.
So let's say next year, or if this year you use this formula or whatever, maybe Missouri would be they would be hosting a game like next week, and it probably wouldn't be Liberty because they would probably be the last one, but it could be Tulane or something, and then you're like, that's when the nerves start. You know what I mean?
Somebody did a 12-team.
I think it would be Tulane
playoff.
at Florida State is what it would be this year because they'd be the next highest champ. You know, whatever they would seed them some way, but then Liberty would have to go earn it. And I think those home games are going to be freaking fantastic. They're less of a burden on the fans because listen, a lot of people want to go to the bowl games, right? But listen, Missouri fans are going down there. They're going to go.
Yeah,
you know how much more that costs than going to Columbia?
Yeah.
A lot more, you know. So I think it'll be great. Those games, which will be it'll be next week basically or whatever in December. Those will be awesome. I love games on campus. They are the best.
I do too. Yeah. So the first round games, the first rounds based on this year's final standings: number 12 Liberty at number 5 Florida State, number 11 Ole Miss at number 6 Georgia, number 10 Penn State at number 7 Ohio State. That just happens. Number 9 Missouri at number 8 Oregon.
And that's where they may try to switch that, not have Penn State play Ohio State.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
They would just seed them differently or whatever.
And then Oregon, Missouri winner would then play Michigan
in a bowl game.
In a bowl game, in a neutral site.
What I don't quite know is like, let's say you lose your game. Do you not get to go to a bowl game? Is that it?
That's your bowl.
Do you not get your bag of swag?
That's your bowl.
By the way, this stinks because Oklahoma got screwed on this one too. But Ole Miss shouldn't be in there. But
I don't disagree with that. But,
whatever. Penn State.
But imagine that path. It's like, all right, Missouri, you're in the playoff. Now go to Oregon and win, and if you do, then go play Michigan in a neutral site. But you know what?
Awesome.
But you know what? Get your chance.
Yes.
You get your chance. You felt like you gave it away against LSU and Georgia. Okay, go prove it. Go beat Oregon. You got to go on the road and beat that team, but go beat that team. Go. You got a chance. You're in the dance.
Those games are better than any one of the, Citadel playing at Auburn. Well, I make a joke about Auburn. They did lose to New Mexico State or whatever, but someone else coming in November.
Right.
And they're better than a half-empty stadium for a bowl game.
100%.
They're going to be awesome.
Absolutely. I can't wait for it, and I'm looking forward to 15 years from now when Missouri's in the same situation they were this year, 1 year before the
the expansion.
Maybe they can play in the upcoming Pringles or Eggo Bowls.
Yes,
Just a couple other Kellogg products I'm offering out here now. The Pringles Bowl would be pretty sweet.
Shill for Kellogg's, aren't you?
I mean,
free product.
More edible mascots.
That's all you want.
You got to rock that Pop-Tart,
Mr.
man.
Pringle.
Maybe in 15 years we'll have an edible mascot.
What did I say? I see what you did there. We also found out Chris Kleiman likes bourbon and Pop-Tarts. So there you go. Who doesn't? We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. Yes. You know what I like? I like food that's guaranteed. And Guaranteed Foods does that. America's finest. right, let's do a little fact or fiction here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Fact, Tacos for Life is here in studio.
If you're going to talk about that, I'm going to go ahead.
No, I don't think you should because I'm trying to talk about it.
Go ahead.
No, it's fine.
It was great.
New locations, Overland Park and Blue Springs. And at Tacos for Life, mention 810, and you get a free queso at checkout. You can go to tacosforlife.com. Also, right now, buy a $25 gift card. You get $10 back to spend at the restaurant. Quick math, that tells me you get $35. Carry the one. $35 there to spend at the restaurant. Every meal that you eat at Tacos for Life as well, you're providing a meal for a hungry child in a third world country. You can enjoy the high-quality tacos, salads, rice bowls, quesadillas, nachos, Tacos for Life, and you're supporting a great cause. It is not a promotion. They do that every single time all year long. When you buy a taco, you are helping feed somebody who is less fortunate.
I'm watching a hungry boy get fed right now.
That's right. Again, new locations.
I am more fortunate right now. Hey, you got some cheese on your shoe there, Lebo.
Nice.
Some of that free queso you can get.
That's right.
Lebo, don't lick it off your shoe. Let Dylan do that. Dylan, get in here.
Hold on. Lebo is literally a bootlicker.
Yeah, well, he's actually a dude licker.
Hey, it was the top of the shoe. Come on, man.
Wouldn't mark that. New locations, Overland Park and Blue Springs. Mention 810. You get a free queso at checkout. Learn more at Tacos for Life. I am rocking the carnitas and then the chipotle sauce
I
tacos.
stand on the deck.
So
I can
good.
see it from here, right? I mean,
You absolutely can. Yes.
Right there.
It's right next to the Target. Across
Valley
Metcalf, Blue Valley
Parkway,
Parkway, Metcalf, whatever, from Costco.
Yeah. I got a fried chicken taco and one of the mahi ones. Weird little off the wall picks. They're all I've eaten now. I think they've been here a few times. I think I've now had everything. They're all so good, so good.
Yeah. Fact or fiction? It's awesome.
That's a fact right there.
It is a fact, Jack.
You guys want to do fact or fiction while I just eat? Because I think
I don't want to do that.
Oh, okay.
We want to think of long answers,
but I would like to do fact or fiction. Yes. Let's go ahead and fact it up. Let's fiction it up.
I guess we can do that as long as you want to start this week, Jason.
Let's start with Todd.
Oh God, you are such an absolute dictator. We'll let Lebo go first, then maybe Dylan go second, then you can go third. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds good. Just for
fact or fiction, fellas. The soccer capital of America extends to Olathe, Kansas.
Sorry. It's
I offered you the chance to go first,
you're
Jason.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
Fact.
Not fact.
Damn right, it's a fact.
Yes.
NAIA men's national champions in soccer. Your Mid-American Nazarene University Pioneers.
There you go. Nice job.
3 points for everybody.
Well done. Also extends to the Copa America. You know what?
Yeah.
St. Louis, Copa. Where's your? I was looking for St. Louis on the list of host cities. Wasn't there?
Didn't
Weird.
see it.
Interesting.
They're having their Copa EM, I guess now.
That's right.
Love that.
The men's national team will be playing a group stage game in Kansas City next year.
Arrowhead.
We know Argentina will not be playing in Kansas City, but that could still be Brazil, Mexico. Could be a match with the United States. So yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway, Dylan's turn.
Dylan, you can go first on this one. Fact or fiction, the College Football Selection Committee, quote, got it right.
Fact.
Fiction.
Oh, man.
There is no right. This is not a moral governing body.
Yeah,
College football does not have a soul. There is no right or wrong.
That's probably the right. Get it right to me. Sure. Get it right in general, like what Todd said at the beginning. No, there is no right. I'm shocked that Todd said fact when he started off
there.
When he started off by saying there is no right. Did they get it right? There is no right.
I sat here and thought, like, okay, well, I wonder if they're going to hold on to this memory for 25 minutes because I'm going to ask this question again.
I'm eating tacos.
I get it.
There is no try. There is only do.
There's only do. Well, do this for me. Fact or fiction? Just crunch into the mic, Lebo. It's okay. We're eating.
It's not okay.
It is okay because we're going to make people hear the crunching of these delicious chips, these wonderful tacos, and they're going to go to Tacos for Life. It's a good thing.
They're going to go tacos for the rest of their life.
Fact or fiction, Jason? The new Grand Theft Auto trailer was released yesterday, teasing the 13th official entry to the franchise that began in 1997.
Okay, so I'm going to say fact.
There's a lot of specificity to that. I think you could have faked this out with one of those things, but I'll say fact.
Question, Josh.
Yeah.
Are you counting all these spin-offs as...
I'm not, and that's a good clarifying question, and it might be the reason I had you go third on this one. No, I would be saying mainline entries specifically.
Fiction.
It's fiction. It's GTA 6.
stupid. Wrong.
I went way over. I went to 13 because I didn't want to be in even that gray area, Dylan, because that's a very fair follow-up.
Do you know why 13, why I went fact on that, why I thought it was true?
No.
Is because...
COVID years?
Well, maybe. The last Grand Theft Auto that came out the last time Jacksonville played a Monday Night Football game. They both have a 12-year gap.
That's wild.
Last night was the first Monday Night Football game for Jacksonville in 12 years, and they lost their receiver and they lost their quarterback in the game.
And they almost lost their mascot. They
also
just
lost,
a high ankle sprain.
They also lost the game, too.
Yeah.
So they did lose
It's the bigger part.
True.
No shame in losing to Joe Burrow's Bengals. What?
Todd, system quarterback Joe
It's
Burrow.
right there. It says it on the TV.
Grand Theft Auto
6.
Whoa, it is on this TV.
Oh, I should have been looking up.
Good timing for us.
Bad timing for me. It was 30 seconds late.
So Dylan now in the lead 2-1-1. To Lebo, fact or fiction, the Chiefs wide receiver who I am most deeply frustrated by is Sky Moore.
This is a hard question. You're frustrated by a lot.
I'm a frustrated
of people.
fella.
That's a pretty good answer. I think I could be getting baited again, but I will say fact.
Man, that's a tough one, dude.
Dylan,
he's also enjoying some food. Fact,
that's okay.
He's enjoying food.
Burp your answer.
No,
I think this is acceptable.
Don't do that.
Especially for fact or fiction. This is it. Look, Jason. If this was your sit down with Bill Self, I'd be like, all right, man, I will not crunch chips into the mic. We're playing fact or fiction. What do you got, Dylan?
I want to say it's Kadarius Toney, so I'm going to say fiction.
I want to know, is frustrated with the specific individual or just the overall sort of receiver, their place, how they're being used? I'm still going to say fiction.
It's fiction.
Dang it.
Because it's MVS.
Okay.
It's just, you're a veteran, man. You've been here for a while. I just track a football. It's wild.
Okay.
I don't know.
Jason, there was enough bad wide receiver play that taking the field was the good option.
That really is
I took
fair.
the field.
Yes.
That's exactly what we did, Dylan.
That really is fair.
Sky Moore second.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, sure.
In the terms of this of the question, yeah,
You know
it's
what?
probably Sky Moore second.
Do like the ACC. Write names down, put it in a hat, pull it out. That's the second.
Could be any one of them.
I'm most frustrated on the Chiefs' usage of Kadarius Toney, I think, but for the receiver, who I am most frustrated by? I'm going to go with MVS. Dylan, fact or fiction, the Chiefs should essentially be treating this Bills game as a pseudo wild card game. Fact or fiction?
Fact.
Fact.
Good to get everybody a point.
Okay.
It's a fact. It's a fact.
Yeah.
It kind of is. You win this game and your path to the 1 seed is wide open. You lose this game and you're playing on wild card weekend. So, plus also, I would just love for the Chiefs to have a game that it seems like they're excited to play.
I'd like them to.
It hasn't happened this year.
I'd like them to beat the Bills at home in the regular season.
I think that'd be great.
Been a bit.
Cool.
Fact or fiction, Jason?
Me.
The NBA in-season tournament, kind of good.
Fact.
I think it's fact, right? People are
I like
liking this, right?
I'm liking it.
Yeah.
Dylan?
I'll say fact.
Yeah, it's a fact.
Yeah.
Kind of good.
That's a fact.
A little more energy than your usual December regular season
The only
games.
highlight I've seen of it is I saw a story that apparently a fan died at a game last night.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I hope that's fiction.
Too bad.
Probably
No,
not.
it's fact. That's what I
that's
saw.
a bummer.
I don't know who won, but I saw that.
So that should have been a fiction for you then. The in-season tournament is
Yeah,
the only thing you've seen from that.
kind
Is,
of good.
I don't know. It must be bad.
I figured
People
this.
are
I know
dying.
this. The floors are atrocious. I'm sure Brisco loves them.
I like some of them, and some of them are atrocious.
Okay.
It's.
or
I'll
miss.
work
You know what?
with you
That
on
means
it.
you're growing up.
A little bit.
It's like basketball. It's a make or miss game.
It really
Hit or
is,
miss.
and there are definitely some misses. That Indy court's still not good. Fact or fiction? Lebo. Well, I'm glad Jason's got to go last on this because we talked about this guy a little bit earlier. Fact or fiction? Wanye Morris will be a starting tackle for the Chiefs Week 1, 2024.
Yeah, Donovan Smith's on a 1-year deal, right? Fact.
Fact.
I agree. It's a fact.
That's a fact. I saw it on PBS.
I think he also is the only hope for them to not draft a tackle in the first 2 rounds this year.
Obi-Wan
So
Kenobi, so-
hopefully he is good enough for them to go ahead and just draft a receiver and a defensive tackle, ideally in that order.
He's
They've been good
Obi-Wan
at getting
Kenobi.
receivers, so.
He played 46 Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's as far as I'm going to get.
46 snaps. I've seen enough.
Yeah.
There we go.
Fact or fiction, speaking of this Chiefs team, if I could magically add a Pro Bowl caliber player to the Chiefs at any position right now, it would be a top-tier pass rusher.
Dylan leads us off
Fact
on
or
this
fiction,
one.
Dylan?
I'm saying fiction.
I think it's fiction for you, too.
Well, after this wide receiver talk, I think it's fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fiction.
Okay.
It's fiction.
I do think that's second, but yeah, I mean, it's the basic answer, but it's the right one. Imagine Not even the best receiver in football. Just imagine a good number 1 wide receiver on this team. Imagine, I don't know, 2022 Juju Smith-Schuster. I know it's hard.
I don't know.
Try to give it a thought.
I'm imagining it. Maybe if you had him wear number 4 or something.
Yeah, it'd have to be something definitely.
I'm
definitely
doing a jersey
9,
swap
I
on
think.
that right now. Actually.
9. Wasn't he 9?
He was 9.
Well, yeah, because Chad Henne was 4.
I know. I'm talking about Rashee Rice.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm talking about
sorry.
I think there is a budding number 1 receiver if they would use him correctly, and he wears number 4.
Well, you're a big idiot, and the Chiefs' offensive coaches are all huge geniuses, so shut up.
Well, one of those things is true.
That was rough.
Fact or fiction? The Arizona Coyotes just lost 5 consecutive games against the last 5 teams to win a Stanley Cup.
I'm first on this?
Yeah.
Yeah, but no clue.
It's a fun stat, though, right?
Sure, fact.
It sounds like you wouldn't even have taken the time to make that up. That's got to be a fact.
Agree.
It's not agree or disagree. It's fact or
Excuse
fiction.
me. Yes, you're right, Tom.
Come on, Dylan.
Fact.
It's fiction.
It's 16 in a row.
Pure
isn't it?
fiction.
They beat all 5 of those teams in a row. How about that?
boy.
How about those Arizona Coyotes, huh?
Are they playing in a high school play still?
I cannot tell you.
I think they are.
I think they're in their regular. I can't remember.
No, they're out
I
of their
don't know.
building. They're playing
Yeah,
like
they were
a
out of the building,
3,000 seat.
Yeah, they
place.
might be at the.
They were
I'll
talking
have to
about
look. I'll look
moving and
into it.
everything.
Yeah.
You know where they're playing right now? Titletown.
They're in Green Bay?
I just thought that was a fun
That's
thing
a
that
good
I
one.
saw this morning of the Coyotes have beaten these 5 teams. I knew none of you would believe in
Yeah,
my Coyotes.
I'll tell you this: you couldn't have named the last 5 Stanley Cup champs without seeing that stat.
I couldn't name you a player on the Coyotes right now. I don't think.
I can name one of the last 5, Lightning and Blues. So I named
the
2.
Blues.
Yeah, 2.
Named
There you
2.
go. I think
Blues
Chicago probably got one
No,
of
I
them.
don't think they have.
Did
think
Chicago
they
not get
have.
one?
There's got to be an
I don't know.
Avalanche in there somewhere.
Yeah, the Avs won for sure. That one's
Boston,
right.
I'm
Boston
sure.
generally
Boston,
wins.
that's
Actually,
right.
Boston last year had the best record and lost as a 1 seed.
Yep.
yeah,
Man
they did.
United probably won one along
Probably.
the way there.
I think Bama had one.
Clearly. The Argonauts, I think, got one there.
Right now,
Rough Riders.
Dylan 7, Jason 6, Lebo 5 by my count. We've got
That's
a
my
real
count, too.
a real battle
Sounds like a
going
tie.
on. Got a real battle going on, and 3 questions to see where we land. Fact or fiction? All 3 local teams should be happy with their bowl landing spots and matchups. Dylan,
Dylan first.
No, it's Todd.
Oh,
Todd,
yeah,
sorry.
I think they should be. Yeah, it's slotted out about right. Yeah, fact.
Dylan.
Yeah, I'll say fact too.
No, I think it's a fact.
It's a fact, absolutely.
That's a fact, Jack. That's a fact, Jack.
I mention it almost just to note how wild it is that we all think, yeah, everybody got a pretty good shake here. That's a nice solution for a season that most of these teams are probably pretty happy with. K-State maybe less so. I don't know. It's fine.
I would say KU maybe. I mean, it's a guaranteed rate bowl. You won 8 games and you got UNLV, so maybe not. But, I mean, it's a higher bowl than just you squeaked in and got 6 wins and made a bowl game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and K-State, obviously this didn't hit all of their standards or whatever, but as the way the season actually panned out, good matchup, good game. You get to eat the mascot if you win.
The G rate bowl is great.
Why don't you eat some more chips, Lebo?
Maybe I will.
Jason, was I right or was I right? It'd be better to have Lebo crunching chips into the
Than talking?
microphone than making that joke.
We would miss that great drop in.
That
by
G-rate
Lebo.
drop
Well,
in.
Tony the Tiger would say it's G rate.
All right, that was worth it.
I think Dylan leads us off here.
Fact or fiction,
Kellogg's.
Dylan? The NFL will make sweeping changes to the refereeing format this year. I'm gonna edit on the fly because sweeping changes is too far, even if it's a bait.
Fiction.
The NFL will make meaningful changes to the refereeing format this year in light of all the controversies, pairing with the league's embracing of sports betting.
Actually, in whose eyes? The NFL's eyes or the public's eyes?
In our collective eyes, we will sit
Fiction.
here by week 1 next year and say they've made meaningful changes.
Fiction.
Fact.
It's fiction.
I was trying something. I was just trying.
It's not gonna happen.
We'll revisit that when they do some crazy things.
Last
Star
one.
that one and remember it.
Last one before the tiebreaker, if we need it. I just have a hunch. Fact or fiction? It is December 5th in the year of our Lord 2023.
Fact. Go ahead and give me that point.
And I honestly think
made
the
this one up.
Chiefs should have Jarvis Landry in for a workout.
Fiction.
You're insane, so fact.
Yeah, fact.
It's a fact!
You're so stupid.
Tiebreaker!
What do you mean tiebreaker?
No, that means-
it's 10 to 8 to 7.
Yeah, and for the tiebreaker, here's what I'm going to need you guys to do.
Okay.
I'm going to need you to create a 4-team playoff of holidays.
Okay.
I don't need your 1 through 4.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
I
I'll
need your
seed
top.
them.
I need you.
I'll
You can
seed
seed them if you want.
I'll seed them.
But I need your top 4 holidays, and I need you to be a better selection committee than college footballs.
All right, we'll do that next. 10 for Dylan, 8 for me, and 7 for Todd. So apparently that is equal to a tiebreaker here.
It's
in
that
a game
new
we call...
math your kids are doing.
That's right, yes.
So the question was?
Here we go.
Create a 4-team playoff of holidays. Selection committees are all the rage right now. I'm only giving you 4 slots to slot in holidays. Lebo, who are your 4 playoff holiday teams? Go ahead and rattle them off 1 through 4.
All right, so I've got 1 is Thanksgiving because I like football.
Yep.
I don't like the pressure of giving presents.
It's the number 1.
And I like hanging out with my family. Number 2, this has waned over the years big time, but it used to be New Year's Day because you could watch like 7 bowl games.
Interesting.
And hang out and just eat all day. Now it's sort of ruined.
Kind of Bama? Kind of Bama here a little bit then maybe?
Yeah, and I got the 4th of July 3rd.
Okay.
Because I love America. Yep. And I love shooting off firecrackers and drinking beers. And I have Memorial Day 4th because it's the beginning of summer. And that means it's go time for everything else. Florida State, just outside Christmas.
Yeah.
Christmas didn't make my list.
Just OLI.
Just didn't. They had their strength of schedule wasn't great. Sometimes it's cold.
Lost a quarterback.
Yeah.
The disappointing people with bad presents.
Actually, with Christmas, they got a quarterback back.
That's right. Yeah. So actually, they got the quarterback, and then Easter, you lose the quarterback and get the quarterback back again, and extra years of eligibility.
Comes running back at halftime. And it's like, I'm here, actually. Day to day. No, I'm playing. Dylan?
All right, so number 1, as Lebo did, Thanksgiving, same reasons, no pressure, all the family and food. Christmas then second because yes, it is great. It's an entire month. It's actually the only holiday that's an entire month. Halloween
started 3 weeks ago actually. I think
it did.
There you go. Christmas season. My bad.
Yeah.
Then 4th of July because I'm a patriot, and Halloween is 5th because it's an excuse to get into a Breaking Bad costume. And then my 5th, looking on the outside in.
Halloween was 4th, is what you meant.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
my bad.
But 5th is what?
New Year's Eve, New Year's.
Okay.
For the reasons Todd said. It's kind of lost its luster when you get older, but New Year's Day is football.
Okay, so mine are number 1, Thanksgiving, because it's an obvious number 1 seed. Number 2, Christmas, still with the kids. Yeah. So it may start to wane over the years, but
it does.
With the still with the kids, with Christmas is awesome. Can I combine Memorial and Labor?
You're bookending?
Yeah,
I'm
so
bookending. Far apart.
I mean, if you get 2, so does Lebo. I think you got to pick one. Lebo set the precedent of just picking 1, so.
You like the end of summer or the beginning?
Well, the Labor Day marks football season. Like officially football season.
You're week 0 guy.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Memorial is now you're on into the summer.
Yeah.
And it's nice, but it's also no football and it's, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going Labor then.
I think that's a good call.
4?
Number 4 is Easter. And number 5 on the outside looking is 4th of July. Easter because with the kids was still the Easter Bunny and the Easter egg hunts. I love America 5th.
You picked Labor Day and you don't have the 4th of July?
I love Jesus.
Yeah. You don't love America.
And I love laboring.
Okay. You don't love America.
I've got Christmas and Easter.
Judge
okay.
this.
Yeah, that is very Christian of you.
Thank you.
I'm a little bit. I'm going to write a letter.
If I didn't have kids, I don't know that Easter would be in there. But
I'm going to get a hold of my constituents in the state of Florida. We are going to write some angry letters. But the winner, and fittingly with the way regulation went as well, is Dylan.
Oh, boy.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, 4th of July, Halloween is very good. Personally, I would have had Thanksgiving, Christmas, Halloween, and New Year's Eve.
You have diabetes.
4th of July outside looking in. I can have Halloween. I can throw Halloween. It doesn't cost any insulin to dress up.
For him, it's obvious. I should have gone the route of he is a have a party, dress up. So it's got to be New Year's Eve with the getting engaged.
This is right.
And Halloween dressing
up. And those are really
so
Renee's
stupid.
traits, but I'm often there for them.
He's fighting his pancreas.
Stupid.
family since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
Day-to-day for Trevor Lawrence, as you heard there in the Sports Center, diagnosed as a high right ankle sprain. Day-to-day, and we'll see week to week. He's listed as day-to-day because Doug Peterson is like, I like how Andy Reid used that with Eric Berry. Wasn't Doug Peterson on the staff there with Eric Berry at that
probably
time?
was, yeah.
He said, Doug Peterson said he's day-to-day because I won't put a timetable on Trevor Lawrence. So instead of saying he'll be week to week, he is now going the day-to-day route like his mentor.
And he hasn't been ruled out for this upcoming game.
Yeah, I mean, can we all sort of agree that if it wasn't the playoffs, that Patrick Mahomes wouldn't have played the week after
That's a great
the Jags
question.
game?
I don't know if we can agree. I don't know. That's a great question.
I mean,
he shouldn't have.
for everything he put in, and it was like, I'm playing against the AFC. Because then you go long-term health versus this one game. Is it worth it? Try to find a way. That's why you pay a backup quarterback there, is to get you through a game or two and get healthy for the long-term run. I mean, was it OTAs that he was like, yeah, I'm starting to get fully back to 100% for his ankle?
Yeah, and it was a similar story with the toe from 2020. I think the reason I will come alongside you on that one.
Yeah, so I shouldn't say should we all agree. Would you agree?
I think I would agree because playoff stretch, a re-injury just ends your season a little sooner. You know, I mean, obviously
That's
if it like breaks, that's bad. But in terms of if you re-aggravate it and you take a step back, well, you're done anyway. If you have that injury in week 4 and now you've turned a 6-week injury into a 12-week injury, that's not worth it. So maybe that's how they would have gone about it. But I also think Patrick Mahomes would have thrown a fit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because we saw what he was able to do in the Bengals game. He was not, limited is a relative term because he wasn't limited compared to Peyton Manning.
Right.
when Peyton Manning, but he was limited compared to how Patrick Mahomes typically quarterbacks a game. But when he had to have it, he then went and ran and picked up the first down and did whatever he needed on what was maybe at that point a numb ankle or at that point an adrenaline ankle. Either way, and I bet that damn thing was barking at him after the game was over, but that thing was barking with a Lamar Hunt trophy in his hands, which is a little bit different than, ooh, it's really hurt, and we won week 6. It really, really hurts. And, oh, by the way, now we got a short week. We got a Thursday night football game coming up, and, hurry up and get into the cold and the hot tub and just keep going back and forth with that and all of the rehab. I mean, I can't imagine Trevor Lawrence would play this weekend, but you never know. Ramondre Stevenson, running back as opposed to a quarterback, different. The running back for the Patriots is out a few weeks with a high ankle sprain, which means that he'll miss the Chiefs game, the Sunday noon kickoff Chiefs game in Boston. So now the Patriots will not have a running back or a quarterback in the game.
That's right. They may only have 1 or 2 receivers on the roster while we're at it.
Well, maybe Juju can just switch locker rooms when the Chiefs leave. Change jerseys with him.
What do you they had to talk around the deadline, right?
Oh, I bet they talked.
They had to talk around the deadline.
Yeah, I bet they talked.
What would if you could go back in time? It's a 3-year deal, but the way some of that money would get moved, I don't have all the spot track stuff in front of me now, so there's something they would have to inherit. But I would welcome all those problems.
Well, my choice would have been, knowing what the contracts are now, my choice would have been the 3-year deal for Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, that one feels like a whiff.
When it's like Jacoby Myers and Juju Smith-Schuster got almost the exact same deal, it's like, New England, what are you doing?
What are they doing? I don't understand.
Like, you chose Juju over Jacoby with the same deal. They're not the same receivers, man.
And one of them has openly talked about his old knees.
That's right. Before all of that. Before having then another full season on those old knees.
Yes.
Then you gave him a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
And you gave him a 3-year deal with the team that he won a Super Bowl with, saying, yeah, we can't do that. We can't give him 3 for 30. We'll give MVS that, but we can't give Juju Smith-Schuster
All
that.
right, so now we are Spider-Man memeing of just like, well, but you gave Juju that money instead of giving it to Jacoby Myers. Well, hey, you shut up. You gave that money to MVS instead of giving it to anybody else. Different off seasons, obviously, but.
So this is where people will start to continue. Maybe not. I think last week they started, but maybe start to double down a little bit more on the thinking or calling me a Juwan Taylor defender or champion or
champion sounds better for sure.
Glosser over.
Not as good.
I like that one. It's on the business card. Hi, Jason. I host The Zone. I'm also right there. It says Juwan Taylor Glosser over.
My business card is extremely slippery for reasons that should be obvious.
Hold on. You sell leather? Your business card is leather? Yeah, I have one. Give them right back. It's from a TV show, Primo.
Okay. Oh, is that the Shea Serrano show?
It's amazing.
I've heard it's very good. I haven't watched it.
It is one of my favorite TV shows. You know me and my sense of humor.
Yeah.
I laugh at a lot of things and get the sense of humor, but I don't audibly laugh.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I audibly laughed once an episode. They're 25 minutes.
Okay.
It's really good.
If
if you're out there and you're like, it's not exactly like a Ted Lasso, but it's, he lives in San Antonio. This kid does. He's a junior in high school, coming of age. He's got a single mom and 5 uncles, and they're all different. And they're all around the house all day, so they're all trying to have a role in his life. And what just takes place with the different uncles and the yelling at each other and all the family dynamics, it's incredibly hilarious. It's also sweet and charming, and it's also fun. And it's fast-paced because it's 25-minute episodes.
Yeah.
It's really good. Anyway, that was a Easter egg from that. Guy sells leather and handed him a leather business card. He's like, you have a leather business card? Yeah, but I only made one. Give it back.
That's great. It's a great bit.
Yeah. So Juwan Taylor Glosser over on my non-leather business card. So Juwan Taylor picked up another holding penalty in the game on Sunday, which killed the drive to where they only scored a touchdown on that particular drive. Now, that's a joke because, this isn't a team that overcomes holding penalties very often.
Sure.
They did on that particular drive. Okay, that's fine. It's not ideal. It's not a correlation causation. He held and they scored a touchdown. You should do it more often. He has 16 penalties this year. Okay, that leads the league by a pretty decent amount. The Chiefs as a team have 33 penalties, and he has 16 of them. So Chiefs as an offensive line, I should say. Chiefs as an offensive line have 33 penalties. He has 16 of them. So he has essentially half of all of the penalties on the offensive line. That is a penalty machine, right? That is somebody who you cannot have on your team. This came up again over the weekend because of the holding penalty for Juwan Taylor. I brought this up last week, talked about it with Adam Teicher, talked about it with Cynthia Freeland. Yeah, didn't talk with Adam Teicher about it today. Not going to talk to Cynthia tomorrow about it. But just to bring this up again, I want to add some perspective to the penalty machine, Juwan Taylor, and what it is to have a reputation versus being viewed as someone who's really liked and is excused if something happens. Since week 6, or since week 4. So again, Juwan Taylor had 10 penalties in the first 4 weeks of the season when almost everybody agrees he was being singled out. If you're staring at one particular offensive lineman, you can find a lot. If the refs were staring at the left tackle for the Packers on 4th and 1, it would have been illegal hands to the face. But you can see that as the illegal hands to the face starts happening, the umpire who's on the left side starts to move to his right because they're getting a little closer to him, and his head actually moves to the quarterback. When his head moves back, the hand is off the face. That happens as a referee. Yep. You don't see it all. But if they were staring right at the left tackle, that is illegal hands to the face every time. So in the first 4 weeks, that's what was happening. Okay. Since week 4, in the 8 games they have played, he has 6 total penalties. So he had 10 in the first 4 weeks. He has 6 total since then. That also leads the Chiefs' offensive line in the most penalties since week 4. But there are some names that might surprise you. Since week 4, Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith both have 4 penalties.
Wow.
So Juwan Taylor has 6. Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith have 4 apiece. Now, they are liked. They are appreciated. They are loved. They are celebrated. 6th rounder and Creed Humphrey, maybe the best center in football. But Creed Humphrey has 4 penalties in the last 4 games.
They also play on the interior where it's harder for refs to see them and harder to get caught. You're not on an island reaching for a block as often.
Since week 4, Juwan Taylor, on Sunday, that was his 3rd holding penalty since week 4. Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith both have 3 holding penalties since week 4. Donovan Smith has 1. Joe Thuney only has 2 penalties on the entire season, so I mean, he's a different beast. Okay, he's a different animal. There's a reason he's an all-pro, Pro Bowler. He just does not get penalized. He's very technically sound. He may lose a rep or 2, but he's not jumping off sides. He's not illegal hands to the facing, and he's not holding. Even if Mahomes starts running and scrambling, it's still not happening with Joe Thuney while it's happening with some others. Juwan Taylor and Creed Humphrey, both the holding penalties on Sunday were as a result of Mahomes scrambling. We talked about that, and that actually wasn't something that was happening throughout the season. The holding penalties were not as a result of Mahomes scrambling, and you just happened to have your hand in there, and you held a little bit too long. Both of those on Sunday. Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Donovan Smith all have at least 1 false start. Juwan Taylor has 3. So he has 3 false starts, 3 holding penalties. Does that add context to the, quote, penalty machine if since week 4 when the officials stopped singling him out, he has 6 penalties, still the most. Yep. But Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith have 4. And nobody complains about a Creed Humphrey penalty. When Creed Humphrey holds, people just dismiss it and move on to the next play. When Trey Smith holds, people dismiss it and move on to the next play. Juwan Taylor holds, and it is an issue, and this guy should be cut or he should be benched because he's making $20 million.
Right.
It's 4 years, $80 million, not 6th rounder. What a find. In 2 years, when they re-up with Trey Smith or Creed Humphrey, I wonder if that will change. I'm not sure, but people really love Creed Humphrey, and they love Trey Smith. I wonder if Juwan Taylor didn't have the first 4 weeks, what the view of Juwan Taylor as a right tackle on this Chiefs team would be outside of having 10 penalties in 4 games.
Yeah, I think you touched on the 2 narratives that have gotten people a little bit. The early season false start stuff, which I have gotten more sensitive to now watching other games around the league. I really I didn't know I was going to be joining you on the front lines here, but like watching every other game, I feel like there are, not an exaggeration, 10 times just watching red zone on just a highlight play or a red zone play, obviously, where you'll watch a pass play and one of the tackles is moving right with the football, and it's like that was either offsides or a false start and they didn't call it, or man, they got it timed out perfectly. But like I'm noticing that in more places now. Yeah. You have to take, so that's one thing that I think some people have not fully moved past that, because a lot of fans were going, this is ridiculous, this is a witch hunt, this is all of it. But then you get further removed and you continue to see some penalties. You go, well, now it's not a witch hunt anymore, right? And he's still having penalties pop up. I think there's a little bit of sort of a false conflation there. And then the other thing is, yes, when you are a $20 million a year player, people are frustrated with you on a level that they are not for the 6th round gem of a rookie that you found. It to some extent, it's not the big moments, but a little bit of that happens with MVS and Justin Watson. Justin Watson hasn't been making plays the last few weeks. He, again, hasn't also been on the wrong end of terrible low lights, which MVS has. Yeah. But Justin Watson having a drop or not getting open is a lot easier for a guy, a special teamer on a fresh little 2-year deal, as opposed to MVS being your only receiver making double-digit money right now.
That's right.
So I do think all of that kind of unfairly puts more weight on the negative side of the scale for Juwan Taylor.
Or maybe fairly.
And monetarily, I do think it's fair because you are expecting a certain standard. But if here's the other element of it, where again, I think this is fair. If he was pass protecting like he was last year in Jacksonville, I would also be here saying, look, those penalties are a fine price to pay because what he was in Jacksonville was a better player than he's been this year. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's timing, if it's psychological, if it's physical, if it's coaching. You could throw a dart at 100 different categories, but he has not been as good as he was last year. And the biggest issue there, in my mind, is not actually the penalties. It is the quality of pass pro.
Yeah, and when you combine those with the $20 million, there's a frustration. Yep. And I don't disagree with the people's frustration. What I am pushing back on is this guy gets a penalty every game out there, and he's getting he's played 532 snaps since week 4, and he has 6 penalties.
Yeah.
Now, it's still a lot because it also leads the offensive line. And by the way, outside of Donovan Smith, the other 3 players have also played 532 snaps. They've all played every single snap: Thuney, Creed, Trey Smith, and Juwan Taylor, including this Sunday's game. And Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith have the same number of holds in that time. So all 3 of those guys, Juwan Taylor, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith, since week 4, have a hold every 177 offensive snaps that they are there. Is that too much? That ends up being like 1 every 3 games that you get a holding penalty. I mean, that seems to be sort of in line with the NFL when you're passing as much as Patrick Mahomes is and the defenses and how good some of the pass rushers are. And by the way, the right tackle is going up against the best pass rusher more often than the left tackle is anymore. I think that maybe add some context when you say, well, Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, since they stopped staring at Jawan Taylor, have been penalized at almost the exact same rate as Jawan Taylor. But nobody's asking for Trey Smith or Creed Humphrey to be benched. They're also combining for like $2 million this year as opposed to a guy who's making 20. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, also making $20 million. Braden Gall, he'll be our guest. We'll talk some college football next.
It's time to catch up with our college football insider, Braden Gall.
Nobody cares.
Now in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Everyone has their own taste, and mine is just better.
Brought to you by Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. Whatever you do, if you're a Missourian, we're for you. We are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, and we've got you covered.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. Let's talk some college football. Braden Gall, ESPN Radio, Athlon Sports, joining us here in the zone. Braden, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you guys?
We are doing just fine. We're doing just fine. We are not living in Tallahassee, so life is fine for me. What was your reaction? What did you take away? And what do you think of the 4 teams that are playing in the college football playoff?
Well, it was so enjoyable that my daughters and I actually rewatched the fourth quarter of the Packers game on Monday morning, just so that I could reestablish, just make sure it's deeply ingrained and entrenched in their hearts. 2 things.
I'm not sure.
Number 1, that there's God, family, and the Green Bay Packers, and number 2, that Travis Kelce is wildly overrated because they're so obsessed with Taylor Swift that I had to bring him down a peg.
Yeah, hey, Braden, what color was Taylor wearing, by the way? Because she was there at Lambeau. I saw her there at Lambeau. What color was she wearing?
All I know is Simone Biles was there, and she was awesome. That's all I know. Simone Biles is just a straight baller. No, I love Travis. It's truly hilarious because I actually love Travis Kelce as a player. Just in general, I've enjoyed his career. I enjoy the personality. I just like everything about him. I love Patrick Mahomes. I like the Chiefs as an organization personally. I think it's great. But they're so my 7-year-old is so obsessed with Swizzle that they weren't cheering for the Packers at any point.
Ooh.
They would just be they'd put Travis on the screen and they both would just start going, "Oh my God, Travis Kelce!" And I was and then until there was a couple of sequences early in the game where he dropped the pass and then committed a penalty, and I was like, "Look, he's not that good. Look, Travis Kelce is not that good.
He pushes off every time.
He's an average tight end at best over the course of his career." And then they showed Taylor, and there's a video of my kids screaming, and I was like, "Oh my God!"
Awesome.
But I am glad that she got to visit the greatest stadium in the history of sports, so that's cool. Anyway, no, college football was fun. It was great too. Yeah.
That's I don't even remember what happened in that game. I just stopped watching and I'm like, who cares? It's it's the regular season. It matters around here. What happens in the regular season? Come on.
I will say on the family text thread, which has been very pro Jordan Love for 3 years, and me, the guy who covered him in college, is repeating the Aaron Rodgers thing twice is statistically almost impossible. But that was the best called football game and played first half that Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love have ever had. So just rest on the fact that they've literally never been that good together, and they were outstanding in the first half. But other than that, I agree. I forgot all about it. Again, so much so that we had to rewatch it the next morning so that we could remember all the things that happened.
Great. Yes. No, I think Matt LaFleur was absolutely calling a phenomenal game that night, just the different things he was doing. We talked about that as well yesterday, and just sort of breakdown of the game and how the Chiefs broke down in that particular game. But yes, if you don't know, Braden Gall, big Green Bay Packers fan, while living in Nashville.
Owner, Green Bay Packers.
Sorry,
owner
of the Green Bay Packers. That's right. One of the owners of the Green Bay. You and 4 other people.
My grandfather had to die for me to become an owner. Okay, it's a real story.
Yeah, you're like every other owner in the NFL.
Yes, true.
Your father.
I'm a nepo baby. What's your problem?
Father passed it down. Your worth is actually based in the ownership there, so you're not flush. You're not liquid. Unfortunately.
Well, let me tell you, I could probably sell that piece of paper on my wall for about $300. So I'm not sure what that gets me, but
$300 is
maybe a couple of nights out on town, I guess.
Get you $300. That's what it gets you right there. So the Florida State is out. I know we talked the last couple of weeks, and your sort of view on it and analysis was, hey, I just need Florida State to lose to Florida or Louisville. One of them just lose so we can stop with the controversy and everything that's going to happen. But if they don't, then we're going to have this take place, and it's better for the sport if they just simply bow out themselves. They did not.
Yeah.
So did they deserve to get in? Are you fine with the 4? Because it is. I don't know if you know this, but it's been hotly debated since they were number 5.
Yeah. So here's the thing. It didn't matter what they were going to do, and this is all. Hopefully, I can offer something new to the conversation because 3 teams are upset no matter what. I think Ohio State fans should be just as upset. Their only loss was on the road to number 1 in the nation by 6 points. They had the ball with a chance to win that game in the final drive. So, I don't know why Ohio State fans get sort of forgotten in all of this conversation. I think the four best – I'll start this way and then I'll work my way back to Florida State. I think the four best teams in college football are Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. I think it's pretty clear. I don't have any like if Jordan Travis was still playing for Florida State, I'd have a different opinion. But I feel pretty comfortable that those are the best four teams. I think Georgia has by far the biggest complaint to be not in, but they weren't going to leave Washington and Florida State out. So they're not going to do that. So I understand why they did what they did. Saturday night, after the second glass of whiskey, I was kind of like, I think I know where this is going to go. And sure enough, it was sort of exactly as I predicted. After all the games that happened, Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama just made sense. The problem with Florida State is and this is the first year we've done this with the committee, and this is how I've tried to explain it to our audience, which is this is not – the committee's job this year was not to figure out who the best four teams were. They were to figure out which of the three teams didn't belong. That's it's a slightly different description of the job. Because if you put any of those seven teams in, I don't think you need to explain to people why they're in. If you put, again, Ohio State, I would include in this. But in any other year, any of those seven teams would be totally deserving. And so what you had to look for in that committee room was reasons to put someone out or leave someone out. And Florida State, with the worst strength of schedule of all seven, and missing its best player, maybe one of the 5 or 6 best players in the game, most important players in the game, which is written in the bylaws, that is something that applies. I don't know how you make the case for them to be in when Alabama has a win over number 1, arguably the best resume of anybody in college football, number 3 strength of schedule in all of college football. Their only loss also to a playoff team. I don't know how you put Florida State in over Alabama, and I feel Florida State's pain. It sucks. Sometimes I don't know how many people. Everyone who's married will understand exactly what I'm about to say. Sometimes you don't need to fix the problem that your wife is complaining about. You just need to look at them and say, "That really sucks. I hear you."
It only took me 8 years of marriage to get there.
It took me about 4, but I got there.
You're smarter.
But that's all this is, man. Florida State fans, everything you're saying, valid. I hear you. It sucks. But there's a clear reason for you to have been left out. You average less than 4 yards per play on offense in 2 games without your quarterback. And it's in the rules. It's right there in the rules. You can take into account the loss of a key player. It's right there. You're clearly not better than Georgia, and you're clearly not better than Alabama. And that's just, it sucks. It is what it is. It sucks. Georgia, I guess the reason that you found to leave them out is that they had their chance against Alabama and they lost in a conference championship game. I think those are dumb reasons, but I understand why they did it. And then Ohio State, you didn't win your division. You had your one chance and you didn't win, so you didn't even play for a conference championship. You didn't play 13 games. That's an easy reason to leave them out. So it's basically the committee is trying to find the easiest possible way to explain why teams didn't get in, not the other way around. It used to have to explain why teams got in, and it's always been pretty easy for 10 years. I think this is the first year where, legitimately more than one team had a complaint about not being in the tournament, and all of them were pretty worthy. To me, I think Georgia is clearly one of the 4 best teams in college football. Number 1 the entire season. You lose by 3 to Alabama, and that's why you're not one of the 4 best teams. I think that's just absolutely dumb. I think that's just stupid. But I get it. It's the last year of the 4. Here's the other thing. Had it been 10 more years of the 4-team playoff, I'm not sure they leave Florida State out. They know they didn't have to worry about setting a precedent this year because the playoff's going to expand. So that's a subtle thing that they probably talked about in the committee room. It's if we left an undefeated champion out now, we're setting a bad precedent, quote unquote, for the next 4 or 5 years. But look, Liberty's 13-0, boys. I don't know why everyone's not complaining about Liberty. Right. Our brains somehow can magically understand context and nuance around Liberty, but we can't do it around Florida State. I'm sort of dumbfounded by the arguments, honestly.
Right, because Liberty beat the teams that were in front of them. All they could do was beat the teams that were in front of them, and
the games
did.
Don't matter, Jason.
Yeah.
The regular season doesn't even matter. I don't understand.
See, and I agree with the part about sometimes you don't have to fix the problem, which is a real true thing to learn in a relationship. There is and I talked about this when it came out. I'm there's the human versus the selfish. The human element is I feel bad for Florida State. That absolutely sucks. And if that was my team, I would be livid. I'd be pissed. I'd be crushed. I'd be heartbroken. I'd be all of those things. And I think they have every right to feel that they got screwed. I understand that feeling and why they would feel it. That's the human part. The selfish part is I don't want to see Florida State play Michigan. I don't want to watch it. I don't think they're good enough to be in there without Jordan Travis. I want to watch the 4 best teams match up, or 4 of the as close as you can get to best teams match up, and see what happens on a neutral site in the college football playoff. So that's the selfish part of me saying, yeah, in my mind, did they get it right? Yeah, because of my entertainment purposes, and I don't have a dog in the fight. Hell yeah, they got it right.
I mean, yeah, lost in all of the chaos is that we might actually get 2 really great football games, and I think that's an important thing to remember. I will say I think Florida State's defense is so good that they, in a low-scoring game with a Washington or a Michigan, let's say, that maybe they could keep it close. But, like, again, you can't be that putrid on offense and then make the case why you belong in a game against Michigan or Washington or Texas. And it's just you can't do it. And so, yeah, I mean, selfishly, like I had money. This is not even a joke. I had money I put down in August on Florida State winning the national championship and making the playoffs. So I lost money when they got left out. But I think it was the right thing to do. And I know that sucks for Florida State. They should be justified in their anger, just as you said. I think Georgia has a right to be like, what on earth are we doing at number – why did we fall from 1 to 6? Does that mean if Michigan would have lost to Iowa, they would have fallen to like 12? Like I don't understand like that. But again, then you turn around and go, okay, who are you going to leave out? And to me, the worst team in the playoff is Washington. They have the worst defense of any of these teams by a mile. They were by far the least dominant team of the regular season. And when you get into this place where you have 7 teams and you are finally like everything is a razor thin margin, everything matters. And this is what I don't get about, oh, then why even play the regular season? Oh, the games have to matter. Like that is such a lazy argument because for those of us who care deeply about this, I am looking at every play of Washington's season and trying to decipher them versus Georgia. And I've watched every play of Georgia's season. And I went back and rewatched the second half of the SEC championship game this morning. And I went back and rewatched it just to like double check that I wasn't missing something. And there weren't a bunch of bad calls. There was only one turnover that was largely self-inflicted by Georgia. Every play was pretty clean. There wasn't any dirty shots. It was a like big boy on big boy real-time football. And if you look, it was big time. It was 4th down stops and 3rd and 1 stops and X plays and a huge punt return and 2 great drives by Alabama and great throws by Carson Beck to an injured Brock Bowers who was playing through pain. And like there are no other teams that could have played in that game and made those plays, in my opinion, in college football. And I include Texas and Michigan in that. Do I think they could play really well in that game? Probably. But I don't know who could have beaten Georgia other than Alabama in that situation. And if that makes me an SEC homer, I don't think so. But I've watched Washington need a pick 6 and no offensive touchdowns to beat a bad Arizona State team. They had to kick a field goal on the last second to beat Washington State. 2 great wins over Oregon, but if Oregon's number 10, Washington's basically even with them because they played 2 basically even football games. They struggled against Arizona, good team on the road, but like they struggled kind of the entire year. And so they figured out ways to win. They deserve the credit. But if you're asking me who I'd put in and Georgia and take out, like to me, Washington's the answer, but they were never going to do that with a healthy Michael Penix.
And the Braden Gall's our guest, ESPN Radio Athlon Sports. One of the things that I had disagreed a lot with is, I already mentioned my human versus the selfish part of it. But one thing I disagreed was just the general sort of feel of, well, Florida State should be in. So when they weren't 4th, now I'm pissed. Not that they weren't 3rd. I'm pissed that they weren't 4th. And my point that I made was, okay, well, if you're mad that they're not 4th and you're okay with them not being 3rd, then you're doing the exact same thing the committee did in saying that a 1-loss conference champion can be ranked over an undefeated conference champion. You're just disagreeing as to how far down Florida State should be. You think they should just be in. But once you think you're fine with number 4, then the committee is saying, yeah, we agree with you in that a 1-loss team can be ranked ahead of an undefeated team. We just think 2 of those teams are better than this undefeated team. I don't get I'll put Florida State at number 4 and I'm pissed that they're number 5 and not Florida State should be in and they damn sure better be 3rd. Okay, at least you've got your conviction.
Yeah. And again, this is something I've worked a long time to try to teach to my audience, no matter where we are. In 1994, like the 0 was better than the 1. The money hadn't changed the game. The coaches all kind of made the same amount of money. Sure, there were some places where maybe there was far more investment under the table, Oklahoma, Alabama. But by and large, like mid 80s, even before the Florida schools. How about we even go back, like before the Florida schools, when it was like, before Miami and Florida State got big, like the 0 was better than the 1. And that's fine. I think that's okay. That was an okay way to look at it. And guess what? There were only 20 bowl games. So like this goes to our conversation about recalibrating what's valuable. And I just, to me, if you're going to base schedule and somebody's record and just say that because they're 13-0, they are better than this other team that's 12-1, and the reason their schedules were different was because of geography in 1933, your entire argument falls apart, in my opinion. That's not automatic. You have to go into the context and the nuances of the situation. And again, for me, Florida State is an easy one. It's like you have the worst strength of schedule of all these 7 teams we're talking about, and you lost your best player. Like, I don't think you need to say much more than that. And, oh, by the way, we have 2 games, proof of concept, where your offense went from, 7 yards of play to, 3.8 yards of play. Like, they were pathetic to watch the last 2 games on offense. The question is, ask if you're a college football fan and you have everything on the line, your entire mortgage is on the line, are they better than Ohio State in a game right now? I would take Ohio State to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I know the bowl game is actually happening, but I don't think point spreads in bowl games would match up with playoff games. I asked somebody in Vegas before the line came out, what would a Georgia-Florida State point spread be in a playoff game, neutral site playoff game? And I was told 15.5 Georgia without Jordan Travis. And that's not to say that Vegas is right. They're clearly not. Washington.
Yeah, right.
But it's not. It's just a tiny little bit of data that says, come on, guys, let's be real about this. They are clearly not the quote-unquote better team as they are constructed currently than Alabama or Georgia, and I would argue than Ohio State. I would have them at 7. But I understand that also flies in the face of what the history of college football has always been about, and that is the reason we're expanding. I mean, let's just be honest. Yeah. That's the reason we're expanding. It is it's the reason we've got a new subdivision coming, which is the first step in an official breakaway that's going to happen in 2032 or whatever. It's all so that we can try to create as balanced the schedules as possible, include as many teams in that top tier as possible, and then try to make as much money off those games as possible. That is what the system is going to be designed to do. And it's why we have 18 in the Big Ten. It's why we're going to have 18 in the Big 12. It's why we're going to have 16 in the SEC. It's why we're going to go to a 12-team playoff. It's why the Big Ten was able to sell 3-tiered NFL-style rights packages to 3 different broadcasters. It's not that complicated. The NFL's records dictate who gets into the playoff because all the schedules and all the rosters are exactly the same. You cannot do that in college football when the schedules and the rosters are dictated by geography and money. I don't understand why that's hard to understand.
Yeah, and I do I want to get one other question on this, and then we'll move on. But Josh brought up the point earlier today. We were talking about the different teams in the Big 12, and one of our guys that we have on went to Oklahoma. Said that Oklahoma and Arizona matchup, and Josh was like, yeah, the Big 12 SEC matchup with a team that's representing the SEC that's in the Big 12 right now, and the team that's representing the Big 12 is in the Pac-12 right now. That future Big 12 SEC matchup of Oklahoma and Arizona, just a fun little aside there. Do you like the strategy, or at least the analysis inside the room of who would you not want to play, being part of the sort of the criteria that Boo Corrigan and Mitch Barnhart came out and talked about of okay, who would you not want to play as part of best teams?
I mean, I think it's human nature to sort of maybe think that way. I certainly don't think the playoff committee chair should say that. I think you can, again, I don't think this is hard to do from a PR. It's the same thing if we looked at what a 12-team playoff would look like this year. I don't want the committee to manipulate rankings to avoid rematches. You know what I mean? Just give us the rankings. The committee in basketball, we kind of know, because there's so many teams, 68 teams, we kind of know there's a reason that Tom Izzo and Coach K would always have a Sweet 16 matchup, right? We kind of knew why so-and-so would be playing against his former team in the second round if they both won. Like, we knew they kind of did that. But because there were 68 teams, you can kind of play with the rankings a little bit and not really mess with the integrity, especially when there's, 4 5s and 4 6s and 4 7s. Like, you can't do that with 4 teams or even with 12. Like, I think you need to just, if you think Texas is a better football team than Alabama, then they should be one spot ahead of Alabama. If you think Alabama is a better football team than Texas, I would put Alabama ahead of Texas. Head-to-head is important, but it's not the whole story. Oh, well, why do you play the games? The games have to matter. Well, you also played the other 12 games that matter too. So again, if you think Washington is better than Alabama, then put Washington ahead of Alabama. So I don't love it publicly. I would never admit that. I would never come if I'm the comms director for the playoff committee. I'm like, no, what are you doing? I think coaches think that way for sure, though. I think anybody that's a former coach in that room or coaches currently absolutely look at it and go. I mean, you saw the Michigan players react this way. They were like, "Oh crap!"
Oh, why isn't Florida State in the playoffs?
Yeah, like that's all the argument you need.
This is
like
BS. The ACC deserves
Michigan,
more respect, is what the Michigan people were saying. That's all they were saying.
When every single player for Michigan's roster instantaneously knows that Alabama is better than Florida State, you have your answer. Like, I don't.
Yeah,
like,
I do like the one guy that just stood up was like, "What?" One guy just like he was so pissed. What the hell?
So no, I don't. It has to sort of be like, if you're going to consider 52 things in a team's resume, sure, make that be one of them. But I'm not sure I'd admit that publicly.
Yeah, and you talk about rematches, and that's sort of interesting because if the playoffs were this year. Missouri being 9 and Penn State being 10, Oregon 8, Ohio State 7 would set up Penn State at Ohio State, and it would set up Missouri,
Ole Miss at Georgia,
and Ole Miss at Georgia, yeah, and it would set up like Missouri at Oregon. And I do wonder if in that you would say, okay, well, we'll put Penn State at 11, Missouri at or just switch swap Penn State and Ole Miss.
Yeah, swap Penn State and Ole Miss.
That's it.
And then you have Penn State at Georgia, Ole Miss at Ohio State. But again, like this is back to your fan versus sort of like human. The fan in me would rather see something new and would love a Penn State Georgia game, just visually, just absolutely amazing. And watching Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss's offense go against Ohio State's defense would be super spectacular and fun. I still would absolutely pick Georgia and Ohio State to win both of those games fairly easily. But I also, there's part of me that's like, no, like, don't manipulate the rankings because you want to see something new. If you think Ole Miss is 7 or you think Ohio State's 7 and you think, do the rankings based on what you think. Like, do the job and do the job the right way. Outcomes, sort of forget about the outcomes. And again, I allow myself to think about, Missouri at Oregon for the right to play against Michigan sounds pretty awesome to me.
Yeah.
So, both of those games, whatever game it would be in the second round, would be spectacular. I think the first game would be great. Watching a playoff game in Alton Stadium, it would be spectacular. Like, it just, that's the reason to get excited for the future.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped. And if I had my druthers, I would switch the 9 and the 10. I'd have Missouri 10, and they'd play Ohio State for the right to play Washington instead of going to Oregon for the right to play Michigan. That's just me. If I was in the committee room, that's what I would do. Just because that's just me. So having no dog in the fight at all. So
So Oregon greater than Ohio State is what you're saying?
No, it's more like if I'm trying to make it far, I'd rather play Washington than Michigan. So I'm actually looking. If they lose the first round, whatever. If they win the first round, you're facing Michigan or Washington. What's the better second round matchup to me to play for a national title and then figure out the first round matchup, whether it be Ohio State or Oregon? And plus, I know it's not the same because of opt-outs and everything. They will play Ohio State, just a different version of what a playoff Ohio State team would be.
I do think Missouri has a lot more to play for in that game to try to cap off their season in like a historic way, where the Ohio State's like, oh crap, we just missed out on everything. Yeah. So I'm curious about that because bowl game motivation is really almost all that matters normally. I do think here's the thing about Michigan though: if J.J. McCarthy had torn his ACL in week 11 or 12 against Maryland, and they had sort of, I guess it's a little different because you'd have the Ohio State win, but let's say he tore his ACL in the Iowa game and they barely beat Iowa. and the Michigan offense looks terrible without J.J. McCarthy. Like, Michigan and Florida State aren't all that different.
Yeah.
Like, Michigan does not have – they were totally dominant most of the season. I get that. But they kind of had a 2-game schedule, and they won those 2 games. One was close. But, like, Michigan, by and large, offense metrically, not one of the best. Certainly, absolutely one of the best defenses in America, and rightly so, to be number one. But, like Georgia, Michigan right now, I think would probably be – I think I asked somebody in Vegas, it would be basically Michigan -1. And if the number one team in America is only a 1-point favorite over you, you're probably one of the 4 best teams.
More than likely, yes. Braden Gall, ESPN Radio, Athlon Sports. Prediction time real quick. Michigan, Bama, who you got?
I got Bama +2.5 yesterday or 2 days ago. It's already down. There's one thing I will say about this, and this is what I'm fascinated by. In college football, we historically have had teams that get there and get there and get there and don't do it and then figure out a way to break through. 2002 Ohio State, 2005 Texas. You could argue 2014 Ohio State was sick and tired of the Big Ten SEC thing. All the SEC teams getting all that love in the playoff in the BCS era. You then had Clemson, lost, figured out a way to beat Alabama. Teams do that, and that's what could make this Michigan team different. They've also got this whole us against the world thing, even if it's completely fabricated. So, like, that's the one wild card here is if they are just on an absolute war path to go finish the job that they failed to finish the last two years, overlooked TCU last year, pushed around by an elite Georgia team 2 years ago. That's the one wild card. Otherwise, I don't know how you stop Jalen Milroe. I don't know how you run the football against Alabama, and I don't know how their defense – I don't know how many athletes they've got enough in space to stop Alabama on either side of the ball. So, I mean, Alabama's the pick, but there is this sort of like historical – psychological thing that sometimes can push a team over the top, and that's what if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I'm trying to tap into.
All right, just the winner, Washington or Texas?
No idea, honestly. I think Texas is the pick, but I actually think it's going to be a great game.
All right, we'll see what happens. Braden, you're the man as always. Really appreciate the time, brother. Thank you for the analysis, the conversation, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, man.
Yep, always a pleasure.
Absolutely. There's Braden Gall. Great stuff from him. ESPN Radio, Athlon Sports, presented by Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. Whatever you do, if you're a Missourian, they're for you. They are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, and they've got you covered. No doubt it was not going to come without controversy once Florida State won out and Alabama beat Georgia. And who knows what would have happened if Georgia won. Not really sure, but yeah, it's a fascinating thing all around. But next year, we get 12 of them. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. Well, I thought I was going to be back last Wednesday for a Thursday edition of the show, and that was not true. But I did not preview that, so
That's good.
I left that open. Now I'm verbally, contractually obligated to show up tomorrow. Also regularly contractually obligated too, but whatever.
What's the day in, day out taking care of your instrument at this point?
Honey.
I mean his voice, by the way.
My honey. Honey. Tea. Steam.
You sound great.
KU pregame 5:30.
Yeah!
Taking on Kansas City. The entire city. Bring it on, Kansas!